Welcome to a soggy night in Boston, the city of buzz with Celtic pride on the eve of the NBA Finals. And across town, the hometown nine are in a fight for first place that no one expected. The standings don't lie, folks. Tampa Bay owns the best record in the American League. Behind the solid play of rookie third baseman Evan Longoria and standout center fielder B.J. Upton, the Rays roll into Boston to face the newest member of the 500 home run club, Manny Ramirez and the Red Sox. Coming up next on Wednesday Night Baseball. Tonight, from the home of the defending world champions, it's Wednesday Night Baseball presented by Goodyear. The Boston Red Sox are at home inside historic Old Fenway, but they're not in first place here in early June. That distinction belongs to the Tampa Bay Rays, and it's no accident. They have the best winning percentage in the American League. Now, the Red Sox took game one of the series last night, but Tampa Bay owns a half-game lead atop the AL East, and this talented young ball club has discovered the art of winning late, and winning often. It's been a wet day and night, but we're ready to start on time in Game 2 of this series. Hi, everybody. Dave O'Brien, along with my partner, Rick Sutcliffe, Aaron Andrews, joining us in just a moment. And Sut, for 15 days in their first 10 years in existence, Tampa Bay knew the thrill of being in first place. This year already, they've been in first place parts of the season for 22 days. How have they turned things around?
Obi, I'll be honest with you, it's team defense. Last year in the American League, there was only one team that was worse than Tampa. This year, right now, there is no team that is better. In center field, they've got a converted infielder, 23-year-old B.J. Upton. He's still learning, but already their closer, Troy Percival, has compared him to Darren Erstad, who they were teammates with the Angels, won a Gold Glove there. Obi, you hear about guys that have 5 tools. The difference with Upton, he's a guy that excels with all 5 of those tools.
Well, Rick, as you know, it's the renaissance man of a manager, Joe Maddon, who really got them thinking that they could win ball games. And Aaron Andrews, right away in spring training, he established the idea they could contend right now.
Yeah, Joe Maddon, a very deep, philosophical kind of manager. Last year he had a team motto, tell me what you think, not what you've heard. And then this year, on a long bike ride in California, he came up with the motto for this year, 9 equals 8. He had it printed up on T-shirts. We stole one of these from the Rays clubhouse. Now, let me tell you what this means. 9 equals 8. 9 players playing hard for 9 innings. You'll be one of the 8 teams to get a postseason berth. Now, it's interesting when you talk to a lot of the players, you ask them, what does 9 equal to 8? What does that mean? Someone say, I don't know. But what they all do know is that Joe Maddon is the reason why this is turning around. In spring training, he was holding meetings saying, look, we can win now. Giving them new ideas every single day that now is the time, and they can do it, OB.
Aaron, thank you very much. Well, Joe Maddon will not have to deal with the colossal figure in the heart of the Boston Red Sox lineup, David Ortiz, who is now on the disabled list because of this swing we'll show you just the other night in Baltimore on Saturday after Manny Ramirez had hit his 500th home run. This swing partially tearing the sheath surrounding Ortiz's ligament in his left wrist. Now, he's in a hard cast for a couple of weeks, then he'll be reevaluated. Right now, surgery will not have to be required. But, Sut, for now, the Red Sox have to fill some huge shoes. The question is, can they do it?
Well, I don't think they can, and I don't think David Ortiz will be back because that's what he has to do is swing the bat. So not only does Manny Ramirez have to pick up the slack, but also Josh Beckett. Last year, he was the only 20-game winner in the major leagues. He, too, started this year on the disabled list with a back injury. But as Captain Jason Varitek told me before the game, he's not as sharp as he's capable of being, but he seems to be hitting his stride. What that means, OB, is that he's getting that curveball over. If he does it tonight, he'll be tough.
Beckett on the hill here in the middle game of the series against front-running Tampa Bay. The brightest star in the East hasn't been the Red Sox so far. It has certainly been the Rays, the world champs in Boston, taking on Tampa Bay in a moment.
ESPN Wednesday Night Baseball is presented by Goodyear. Innovative technology to help you get there. And in part by Outback Steakhouse. Treat your dad with Outback Steakhouse this Father's Day. Open at 11. Baby Ruth. Savor the good stuff. And Cisco. Welcome to the Human Network.
A drizzly night here in Boston, but we're ready for game 2 of the series. Josh Beckett on the hill. Here are the Pizza Hut starting lineups. And for Tampa Bay, good speed right in front of B.J. Upton, who has pretty good power as well.
Well, and take a look at that on-base percentage for a 23-year-old. He realizes hitting third in that lineup how important he is.
Josh Beckett 5-4 with an ERA of 4.30. Not Beckett-like numbers to this point, but the Red Sox believe he is starting to pitch like the guy who won 20 last year. The first pitch to Akinura Iwamura, who is a .272 hitter with 4 homers and 17 runs batted in.
You look at that ERA, that's not Josh Beckett-like, but you got to remember his first start was where he really got banged up.
1-0 pitch. This one socked to deep right field. Drew backing up, circling on it, makes the catch. J.D. Drew made a couple of tremendous plays last night in the Red Sox victory. A game that started with Iwamura knocking one out over the Green Monster. The Red Sox pretty solid defensively, especially there on the right side. Youkilis is a Gold Glove winner. Pedroia may win one this year.
Well, it'll be like manager Terry Francona has said, the little guy is really the guy they lean on to get those double play turns. He's really the spark for that team defensively.
Here's Carl Crawford up the middle and a base hit. Crawford just back to the ball club last night after an MRI in an area right behind his right knee. There was some concern about that, but Crawford went to Alabama, had the MRI done, and was able to get in the lineup late in the contest last night for Joe Maddon.
You know there's a problem in there. I mean, he would not have missed that game last night if there were not, but they basically told him they think it's something he can deal with.
Well, a terrific base stealer, one of the best in the game. The Rays have their own injury issue. You're talking about David Ortiz, but Carlos Pena is now on the 15-day disabled list with a fractured left index finger. He was hit by a pitch last night. Here's Upton at 307, 3 homers, 34 runs batted in. Their top RBI man. He takes a strike from Beckett.
When you're talking Pena, you're talking the comeback player of the year a year ago, and OB 46 home runs. Power being something that team really has yet to see this year.
Pena, who is a Boston kid, drove in 121 runs last year and has become a big star with the Rays. They have to go without him for a while. Cliff Floyd on deck as that one's cut on and missed. And you talk about the breaking ball for Beckett and so much of his success coming off the great curveball. I know you were talking with Jason Varitek about that and how valuable it is, a pitch for Beckett. Everyone talks about his fastball.
Yeah. Well, at 95, it's pretty good. And his changeup is well above average. But the key to him, and Jason told us last year before the postseason started, he said if he's getting the curveball over early in the ball game, it's going to be a long night for the opposing team.
Crawford a short lead at first base. That is on the corner, and he got him. Upton with a little bit of an argument here for Paul Emmel as he walks away, wondering about the strike zone, but they're 2 down.
Strike 2 came with the curveball. The captain comes right back with the same sign. And look at that with K-zone, painting that outside corner for strike 3. And you know, you saw the on-base percentage with Upton. He gets on 40% of the time, so that was a big at-bat right there for Beckett.
Now you can see Upton with a great idea of the strike zone, because according to K-zone, it was just a fraction off the corner. A pitcher's pitch, certainly.
We're at Fenway. Beckett's on the mound, and the house will be packed.
It will be. They'll get here in time on this rainy night. Here's Cliff Floyd, who has really been outstanding in the clubhouse for Tampa Bay. A guy who's been around for many, many years, been in winning situations. In fact, spent a brief time with the Red Sox a few years ago. But Cliff Floyd, because of his veteran status, as Crawford hustles back in, is a guy that, you know, when he talks in their clubhouse, the young guys listen.
You know, and OB, you know him better than I do. I mean, he's really a likable guy.
One of the most likable guys in baseball. One of the friendliest, warmest guys around.
What if he could have stayed healthy? Wow.
Well, there were discussions about Clifford Floyd early in his career with Montreal as he takes a big swing and fouls it back, that he was a young Willie McCovey, that he could have put up those kind of numbers if not for all the injuries. Boy, a very soupy night here at Fenway Park. Continues to mist here. The grounds crew did an excellent job getting the field ready for play, but it looks like this kind of weather will be with us throughout the night. Crawford has yet to attempt a stolen base.
I was told before the game that's what hurts him the most, is sliding and tucking that left leg up and underneath him. So I really don't expect to see him go anywhere because they just need him. They need his presence in the lineup and his defense in the outfield.
And yet that's a real weapon that they missed. That one inside on Cliff Floyd as he checked his swing. What Tampa Bay has said about Crawford is that maybe he slides a little too hard. I mean, he's 110% every time into that bag.
We see their manager Joe Madden there. You talk about getting your team ready to go. Well, they lose their cleanup hitter and their slugger in Pena. He has a tough task for him tonight.
1-1 breaking ball is inside as Floyd laid off the curve. Evan Longoria, their fine rookie third baseman in the on-deck area. A guy who is going to make a serious run at Rookie of the Year. You see that batting average is .237. They believe that's going to come up. He's made huge plays throughout the season at third. Just ask the Red Sox. He made one after another in Tampa Bay's sweep at Tropicana Field of Boston back in April. The count 3-1.
Well, right now, if he doesn't win the Rookie of the Year, the kid out in left field for the Red Sox probably would.
That's Jacoby Ellsbury, who stole 18 bases in the month of May and just won the Rookie of the Month in Major League Baseball for the month of May.
He almost won the MVP of the World Series before winning the Rookie of the Year.
Almost did on that stage. Sucked into right field. A long line drive base hit for Cliff Floyd. Crawford will trot up and into second and stop right there. That's a play where had Crawford been 100% healthy, he's standing at third right now.
Well, I agree with you, Obi, but I think if he were 100% healthy, he would have been at second or at least attempted to get there before this base hit and possibly scored a run on it. Cliff Floyd, you know what you're going to get with him when he's healthy. He can hit the ball as hard as anybody in the game. But now with Pena down and the offense not hitting his stride yet, Obi, they've got to look to the kid here at home plate to help them out.
Young man out of Downey, California, the 6'2" right-hand hitter. Longoria hitting .237. He has hit 7 homers, driving in 28. Of course, the last name identical to that of the Desperate Housewives star, Eva Longoria. He is not related to her. He would like to meet her one day. So would you, so would I. And it goes without saying that they are not related. But he is making a name for himself, isn't he?
And he's doing it in a hurry. Just drafted a couple of years ago. Rocketed through the minor league system.
And signed a big money contract extension in April. Curveball does not snap and chases him out of there.
Well, and it chases Captain Jason Varitek out to the mound, and he told us before the game he knows Beckett as well as anybody, and the key is that curveball. He's got to command it. He was able to do it to Upton, and he got the easy out. Thus far in this at bat, he has struggled. He missed with it on Cliff Floyd, and it's almost like Cliff Floyd just disregarded that pitch, said I'm going to get a fastball. He sat all over it. And if I'm Longoria right now, I do exactly the same thing. That fastball is what I look for.
Now Beckett scuffling a bit here. Uemura started out the night with a line drive rocketed into right field. Drew had to make a good running play to keep that from falling in. The 2-0 pitch outside and with a fastball at 96, but it missed. Longoria signing a 6-year contract on April 18th could be worth as much as $44 million. And he had spent just a couple of weeks in the big leagues when they signed him to that deal. That raised some eyebrows among people like Prince Fielder, for example. The Milwaukee Slugger, who has not had that kind of an offer. There's a swing and a high fly ball deep into left center. Ellsbury and Crisp are there, and Coco Crisp underneath to put it away. 2 men left. Kind of a rocky start for Beckett, but he does not buckle. And the defending world champs are coming up for the first time in a moment. Well, the men of Terry Francona coming up to bat against the right-hander Edwin Jackson. They have won 11 consecutive games at home. Starting lineup presented by Pizza Hut has the speedy Ellsbury at the top, 28 thefts to lead the majors.
Well, he adds another dimension to what was already a good team offensively, and with Big Papi out right now, they're going to rely on him even more than they have up to this point.
They know they will see good stuff from this right-hander, Edwin Jackson. 3-4, his ERA at 3.70 coming into the middle game of the series.
Talking to manager Terry Francona before the game, he said this is where Fenway becomes really important. You got a young pitcher on the mound. His command at times is suspect. He says that you hope this crowd can get inside his head and get him outside of the zone.
This crowd trying to stay dry in Boston tonight as Ellsbury is ready to dig in against Jackson. Jacoby Ellsbury hitting .284, 4 homers, 21 runs batted in as he takes a strike. And the talk ever since he came up last year, Sud, here in Boston, has been he might be the fastest player ever to don a Red Sox uniform. Down low again, and the count 1 ball and 1 strike.
Wow. They've been playing baseball here in Boston a long time. Quite a statement. Quite a player.
Already, again, with 28 stolen bases, had a huge month of May as he pops this one back behind the plate. Navarro has some room here on the warning track as he shucks the mask and makes the catch for out number 1. You talked about Tampa Bay defensively and how good they have been, with Longoria now at third, able to move Iwamura, who was a Gold Glover in Japan, over to second base.
Well, he was a Gold Glover at third base over in Japan. Last year, he also led the majors in fielding percentage at third base. But so much talent from the kid, he had to make the transition to second base. No errors as of yet. And manager Joe Maddon said, really, you know what? That's been my biggest surprise this year.
Pedroia gets in, hitting .276, 4 homers, 28 runs batted in. Iwamura, by the way, using an alligator skin glove. That might turn out to be a trend if he continues to play defense like this, and it's been really the main reason for the huge turnaround by Tampa Bay as a first-place team, fouled back by Pedroia.
You know what, speaking of rookies of the year, we've talked about guys with possibilities. This guy's got one.
He won it last year. You won one as well. I know you've said it's the award that you appreciate more than any other because you can only win it one time.
Well, and it surprises you the most.
0-2 dribbles right by Navarro. Pedroia is scuffling right now with the bat. Just 10 out of his last 58. That's a .172. So his average has dropped from .307 to .276. The Red Sox are not concerned by that. They believe because he can get real hot in a heartbeat that's about to happen for him. He drives that one down the right field line, slicing toward the pesky pole, but that one is going to be a foul ball. Now the crowd down there was hollering. They wanted that one to be fair in the worst way. But the first base umpire, Jeff Kellogg, said no. Now Luis Alicea, first base coach, thinks that was a home run, and here comes Terry Francona. He's going to argue the point as well. Now, of course, this has been a big issue in baseball here the first couple of months of the season.
Let's just go to replay real quick, and we'll get this over with.
Do it right now. Of course, we do have that luxury. The umpires don't.
Tells you right here that Jeff Kellogg is not sure. But I will tell you this, watching Luis Alicea, he too was not sure because he didn't go immediately. He started to go, then he stopped, then he went. That's when Francona had to follow.
Well, Terry Francona has asked the umpires to huddle on this. Paul Emmel, Jeff Kellogg, Rob Drake, and Chad Fairchild. So they will talk it over and see if anybody got a different view.
Well, and what happened in New York? You remember when Mike Riley on the ball that was hit down the line that was taken away? The home plate umpire, Bob Davidson, overruled him. The rule of thumb for the umpires, as we take a look here, there's Delgado. Yankee Stadium, down the line. The third base umpire, Mike Riley, got it right. But after an argument by the Yankees, the home plate umpire overruled him. That was Bob Davidson. You cannot overrule him unless you're positive. The umpires have constantly talked about that, and that's what's going to happen here. If they're not sure, you've got to go with what Jeff Kellogg said.
And that's what they're going to do, rule a foul ball. Now, in that situation you just described, later, Bob Davidson apologized for what turned out to be the incorrect ruling.
That's too late.
This will stand as a long, loud foul down the right field line.
Boy, no sooner did you say Pedroia was going to get going, the Red Sox felt that. But when you know what, you're going good, that's ruled a homer.
That's right. He's not going so good right now. 1-2, and Jackson delivers. Did he hold up the appeal? He did.
You better not ring
to Kellogg. Yeah.
You just took a homer away from him.
Well, maybe he did, maybe he did. I got to be honest with you, the replay I saw, that looked foul to me.
I knew he wasn't going to ring him up on that. I would have bet the house on that.
The 2-2 from the righty. Chopper foul. On deck, J.D. Drew, who's batting in that third spot, and of course that's normally occupied by Big Papi David Ortiz, the incredibly talented designated hitter who is down for at least 30 days with that partially torn sheath around that ligament in the wrist. So Terry Francona has to do some shuffling. Manny Ramirez is the designated hitter. Slicer foul off to the right, still 2-2. 97 on that fastball from Jackson, so Manny getting a good look at a hard thrower here tonight. Red Sox have been exceptionally good at home, the best in baseball at 22-5. This Tampa Bay team also very good at home at Tropicana Field. They're 24-10, but they've played the fewest road games of anybody in the big leagues. Another check there by Pedroia, and the count runs full. He's had a fine at bat.
Really a tough test this road trip for the Rays. Not only starting here in Boston, they go to Texas after that. Ronnie Washington has the Rangers playing so much better.
The 3-2. He takes ball 4. Pedroia would have obviously preferred the home run, but he really earned that walk. He is on at first. Doesn't walk very often. And Drew striding up to swing here. Edwin Jackson calls home Columbus, Georgia, and that part of the country is also home to J.D. Drew, although Jackson was actually born in Germany.
Dad was in the Army?
Yes, father Edwin Sr., 23 years in the Army, reaching the level of sergeant.
Thank you, sir.
Big swing and a miss by J.D. Drew, hitting .296, 6 homers, 26 runs batted in, and probably the hottest Red Sox hitter, and for that matter defender, going right now. He had a home run last night, made a couple of really fine defensive plays, and he did the same thing in Baltimore right after Ortiz was injured. That fastball missing. This is last night here at Fenway in Game 1. Taking on Matt Garza and taking him out of the ballpark. This is a no-doubter to deep right.
Well, really a lot of ups and downs last year for J.D. Drew. Probably more downs than ups, but he did finish strong.
Had a huge hit in postseason play, hit a grand slam.
We were sitting right here. Fausto Carmona, dead center field with one swing of the bat. He turned everything around for him. That's the only thing these Red Sox fans remembered from a year ago.
That seemed to take the weight of the world off Drew's shoulders, who can play a little stoically for these passionate Red Sox fans. They kind of like to see you wear that heart on the sleeve. That one is fouled back out of play, very similar to Trot Nixon.
I was just thinking that the way that guy played.
Yeah.
I mean, he just left it out there on the field every night. That's what they were used to watching in right field here at Fenway.
But as gifted as Trot Nixon was, J.D. Drew is a far more talented player. He's a 5-tool guy with a terrific throwing arm and the ability to really take over a game. That one fouled back. 1 ball, 2 strikes, and he's hot right now. He's hitting .381 in his last 6 games.
You know, too, OB, you talked about him in the postseason last year. J.D. Drew's been in the postseason 6 out of the last 8 years. He went there with the Cardinals. He went there with the Braves. He went there with the Dodgers. And, of course, last year with Boston.
And wound up with a ring because of it. Pedroia at first, 1 man out. Little pop-up back behind the plate, but no play for Navarro. And no score in this one in the first inning on a rainy night here in New England. Tampa Bay with a half-game lead over these Red Sox. And you look at those postseason numbers, not bad. 314. throughout his playoff career. Drew missed a couple of games on their recent road swing because of vertigo that he has battled since childhood. He takes a fastball up. They put him on some medication for it that cleared up the vertigo, but it really took the wind out of his sails. It made him real tired and groggy, so he couldn't play for a couple of days.
You know, when you talk about that, I think about Rocco Baldelli and how Tampa, I wonder when I was going to do that. Tampa could use him right now out there in right field.
The 2-2 is down low. Of course, for us, the difficulty is catching ourselves from saying Tampa Bay Devil Rays. You can go with Tampa Bay Rays.
I was going there, though. You knew I was going there.
Got to get the devil out of there.
You know. And aren't we all glad that they did?
Yeah.
What were they thinking to begin with that?
Yeah, they dropped the devil and they started to win. And they also changed up those uniforms. You see that blue lettering and the new blue caps under Joe Maddon. He loves the look. The runner goes, fouled away by Drew.
He's not the only one that loves that look.
It's one of the top sellers in Major League Baseball. The Tampa Bay cap, the new look, and the new colors have been really popular.
Well, I'm just so happy for Joe Maddon. Some people forget about all the success he had as the bench coach for the Angels back when Mike Scioscia, 2002, they came back in that 7-game series against the Giants. Maddon was right there beside the young Mike Scioscia.
Hired in 2005.
Almost hired here.
That's correct. Yep. He was in the running. In fact, he finished second to Terry Francona. Interviewing with Theo Epstein. Red Sox liked him a lot.
Both of these teams made the right decision. Both of them got the right name.
You're right. Pedroia on the run. This one flied into center. Upton has plenty of time to wait beneath it for out number 2. You cannot argue with the results. Tampa Bay's in first place, and Terry Francona has 2 World Championship rings as the manager of the Boston Red Sox. They are 2 of the very best in the game.
Speaking of very best in the game,
here comes Manny Ramirez. Last night was his first home game since hitting his 500th home run, which he did in Baltimore over the weekend. And Manny, before he dug in, the fans were rising all over the ballpark at a huge standing ovation. He wanted to get right in and start swinging, but the fans wouldn't let him. And Manny stepped out, removed his helmet, and he doffed his helmet to the capacity crowd at Fenway. It was a wonderful moment for Manny. He takes a fastball outside for ball 1. Last night, the crowd really showing their warmth and appreciation for him.
Well, and he gave him one more thing to cheer about in that at bat, lining a single right back up the middle. That's great.
He swings and fouls this one away for a strike.
You know, thinking of that, partner, as I watched it on SportsCenter last night, I remember back in 2000, we were there. The last game of the year, Manny played for the Cleveland Indians. He got the same kind of ovation. He stepped out, tipped his hat. The first pitch he took, because I think he thought the pitcher was going to throw at him. The next pitch, he took as far over the center field wall as I've ever seen there in Cleveland.
Fouls that one away off to the right side. 1 ball, 2 strikes. And Manny Ramirez proving definitively, just look at the 500 home runs and making tracks toward 3,000 hits, that he is one of the great hitters of this generation. He has said he fully intends to hit well over 600 home runs, and he would like to finish his career, he says, with the Red Sox. This is the last year of his contract, but there are 2 option years that the Red Sox hold on that contract. He swings and misses, and down he goes. Strike 3. Good fastball at 98 from the right-hander Edwin Jackson to fan Manny Ramirez. 1 man left. Back at Fenway Park in Boston, Massachusetts, and it's the Red Sox and the Tampa Bay Rays. The front-running Rays have a half-game lead over the Red Sox coming into play tonight. Boston winning game 1 last night 7-4. Josh Beckett against Edwin Jackson. So it figures to be a pretty good pitcher's duel tonight. The long, tall Texan to go back to work against Navarro, Hinsky, and Gross. Deano Navarro hitting .338. He's been a real key to their surge. He's done it both ways, offensively and defensively. He's always had a good throwing arm.
Yeah, and we've always heard about his offense and how he's capable of swinging the bat from both sides of the plate. But this is the first time we've heard about him on the defensive side.
He swings, and that one right by the foot of Beckett. Lugo in time for the out. Navarro is retired 6-3 as we go to John Seibel in the studio for a SportsCenter right now.
Thanks, Dave. Here's what's going on SportsCenter right now. John Smoltz will undergo season-ending surgery next week. He's the only pitcher in Major League history with 200 wins and 150 saves. He's 41, but not yet ready to call it a career. Big Brown's just one jewel shy of the Triple Crown and will run for the thoroughbred hat trick right from the rail. The early 2-5 favorite. Next SportsCenter at 11 Eastern. You can always stay current on ESPN News. Back to Boston.
All right, John, thank you very much. Eric Hinske in the box on the left side. He takes ball one, but Suddy, I know that John Smoltz is a guy you talk to on a regular basis. He is going to the Hall of Fame. We all believe. The question is it over for him?
I wouldn't bet against him. I mean, he's come back from a lot of things throughout his career. We swapped messages today, wishing him well. You could just see. I think it kind of just tells you about John Smoltz and how he felt about his team and his career when he went out there trying to throw sidearm. I mean, he basically just reinvented a delivery hoping to take away the pain. And you know, I'm sure he damaged a lot more by trying to do that. It didn't work, but you have to love the effort and what he's meant to that organization.
Well, now 41 years old. He was a phenomenal closer, a Cy Young Award winner as a starting pitcher. He doesn't have anything to prove at this point, but obviously the competitive fires still burn for John Smoltz.
That's the key. And I don't know that I've ever in baseball met a guy more competitive in anything that he does, any sport.
Hinske, the former Red Sox outfielder, takes outside for a ball. Pretty good story. 30-year-old non-roster invitee to spring training. Not only made the club, but he's become one of their top power threats. Hit 10 homers, driving in 27. He won a ring with the Red Sox last year as a part-time outfielder. He takes outside to count 3-2. When the Red Sox visited Tropicana Field in St. Petersburg for the first time this season, Hinske was called to the weight room down there. He wasn't sure what it was all about. When he opened the door to the weight room, the entire Red Sox roster and Terry Francona was in there with his World Championship ring. They surprised him. They made the presentation, and Hinske said it was one of the great moments of his career. 3-2 sock to center field, hit well. Crisp is backing up on the track. It's over his head. That one slams off the wall, and Hinske is into second base with a stand-up double. Another hard hit ball off of Beckett. They are seeing him very well here in the early innings.
Well, the only guy that didn't was the only guy he's been able to do anything with that curveball. Everybody just sitting fastball. They're spitting on anything off speed, and when they get the fastball in the zone, they are putting the barrel of the bat on it. I tell you what, boy, watching these outfielders here with Ellsbury and Drew out there and right, they played this ballpark so well. That ball right there, I mean, Coco went right to the spot that he knew it was going to come off that wall with. There are people that misplay that. And OB, with one out, you let a guy get to third base as opposed to second, well, you're giving them a run.
It's a great point, and really no slight against Manny Ramirez, who is the designated hitter and figures to be quite a bit here in the days to come with Ortiz out of the lineup as Gross takes a strike in the outside corner. But this outfield, with Ellsbury with all his speed in left field, Coco Crisp, who is of Gold Glove caliber in center, and J.D. Drew, who has a tremendous arm and can flat go get it in right field. This is one of the best outfields in all of baseball. So they have improved defensively, although they've lost a lot of offense with Ortiz and a lot of swagger as well with Big Papi. Gross hitting .242. Runner goes, cut on and missed. Down to third is Hinske.
That's what happens when you play with a guy. Hinske knowing Beckett. Beckett with a man on first will go to the slide step. But with a man on second, he goes to the high leg kick, almost completely forgetting about the runner. Hinske knew that. When you sit on the bench and you watch a guy for the course of a season, as he did last year, he picked that up. He paid attention, and he picks up that extra 90 feet just because he's intelligent and watches the game.
That's one of the things that Joe Madden really likes about Hinske. He calls him Eric the Hinske. He likes the intelligence. He likes the grit. The fact that he plays every out like it's his last. He's in scoring position at third now. After his double, he was already there, but now just 90 feet away. And it's outside on Gross.
This is with another curveball, but because of the intelligent play by Hinske, Terry Francona's got to bring his infield in. You try to keep from allowing one run. Sometimes this can come back to haunt you and end up turning into a big inning.
Well, Gross, a fly ball hitter. He was acquired from Milwaukee on April 23rd.
He's a troublemaker. The walk-off homer he hit against the White Sox.
Yeah, on Sunday.
All the trouble he started between Ozzie. No trouble there, though.
That one on the inside for a 97-mile-an-hour fastball strike to get him.
Gross wasn't real happy with this call. Let's take a look at K-zone here. Tell you what, that's close. You got to give him that. I think there was a seam that touched the K-zone in the inside corner to get that call. But again, as a hitter, OB, a man on third, less than 2 outs, you're at Fenway, Beckett's on the mound. You got to know that that's a strike.
Here's Jason Bartlett, the shortstop, hitting .243, no homers, 9 runs batted in. You've talked about their defense already tonight and how Bartlett has made such a big difference. He had committed just 1 error in his previous 37 games going into last night, but he made a big one in the 6th inning last evening, opening the door to a 4-run Boston inning. And the Red Sox would win the game 7-4. Otherwise, he's been outstanding. Good stop by Varitek.
You know, B, I learned from Joe Madden every time I'm around him. And before the game, he was talking about their defense, and in particular what Bartlett has done. He talks about the diamond within the diamond, going from home plate out to second and short and then to center. He talks about that diamond within the baseball diamond being the main reason they are so good defensively this year, that being Tampa.
It turned out to be a very good trade from Minnesota. They also got Matt Garza in that trade. Down low for a ball, 2-1. And Garza was pitching very well until last night. He was 4-1.
Well, he had a rare error, a miscue on the part of Bartlett after hitting Youkilis with a pitch. You know, they'd just given him a 4-3 lead in the 6th inning. That's when that got away from him.
Hinske leading away from third with 2 down. And a 2-1 from Beckett. Fouled away. Bartlett just gets a piece of it. That fastball at 96.
Now both Beckett and Varitek in their mind going, can he throw it for a strike? I'd love to put down a curveball. But if he can't throw it for a strike and he misses 3-2, we don't want to turn the lineup back over and give him a chance. This is the number 9 guy. You hit 9th for a reason. Take a look there at the sign. Look at that. He's not even confident about the curveball. Varitek puts down fastball first.
Because if he bounces it, a run could score. The fastball missed. 3-2. Now Jason Varitek, the first one to tell you that Josh Beckett is starting to get close, but he is not the dominating pitcher yet that he was really start to finish last year when he won 20 games. And
you know, watching what we've seen tonight, it's hard to believe he hadn't given up a run yet.
He's allowed 3 hits, a bunch of hard hit balls. The 3-2 shot to center field is Coco Crisp to make the catch. Another one drilled that is caught. Beckett living on the high wire so far tonight. Still no score in Boston.
It's here at Fenway. And of course, David Ortiz missing from action tonight, placed on the DL yesterday with a wrist injury, and it was very surreal to see the Big Papi with that cast from elbow to wrist. I caught up with him early this afternoon to just find out how he's doing mentally.
A little frustrated, you know, because he get that kind of injury when you are just playing a normal game. You don't get hit. You don't do anything crazy, just in a swing, what you normally do every day. A little crazy, but nothing you can do about it, but just hanging out and do what they tell you.
Obi and Seth, you know, the one interesting thing I was talking to Jason Varitek about with David Ortiz, you know, the fact he's not going to be on the field, they still need his presence in the clubhouse so badly. Varitek telling me, you know, we need that smile. We need that upbeat nature. That's something that team thrives on off the field. So they're really pushing Papi to still act that way in the clubhouse.
And that's a great point. They also need him, you know, just to say something or do something like late in the ball game. Say you're down by a run. His personality is such that even when he's not swinging the bat, he can help somebody else do it.
Youkilis tags that one foul. Kevin Youkilis batting for the first time tonight. Mike Lowell just denied a base hit on a sinking line drive, and Upton just made a terrific play in center field.
Troy Percival was right.
And especially given the fact set that he is a former infielder, converted out, for they finally found a spot for him, and he's a natural in center field. A big swing and a miss there by Youkilis. He is a quick strikeout. 2 down. Back to that catch.
Just look at how he's gliding. I mean, he covered a lot of ground, and he was able to get his wrist out of there before his body went up on top of it. It's been raining here all day long, and what did they do twice before the game started? They took the tarp and pushed it out into the outfield where they dumped all that water, and yet he kept his footing and was able to get the leadoff out.
So 2 down, and Varitek steps in on the left side, the switch hitting catcher, batting .269 with 6 home runs. One of the interesting things about the soundbite we just saw from David Ortiz that Aaron was talking about, that is not the David Ortiz the Red Sox and their fans are used to seeing. He's usually a lively guy, very up, very charming. He's really been knocked off his pins with this injury.
OB, it was just a swing. It wasn't like Pena where he got hit by a pitch and something that, you know, might not happen again. He's got to swing the bat. That's what he does. That's the reason he's so loved here in this town. And that's got to be scary. And like he told Aaron, I mean, it's going to be 3 weeks that he's in that cast. They have no clue what they're going to get when it's over with. I mean, it wasn't even a big swing. It wasn't like he was trying to roll over or hit the ball out of the park. Just trying to put it in play.
Varitek pops that one up. Crawford couldn't find it for a moment. It's into the stands anyway, but he lost flight of that ball. And you know, on a night like tonight where it's misty like this and it's foggy, there's a very London feel to it. Can you lose a ball up there?
No question about that. That's where you depend on your infielders, help from your other outfielders, because you know as an outfielder for Tampa Bay, you're not going to get any help from the fans. They're going to do everything they can to distract you. So you've got to almost play a team-like defense.
Varitek over his last 9 games hitting just .161. Although he's been a lot better on the right side of the plate than left-handed. Cut on and missed, and another big heater. 98 on that gun from Edwin Jackson. Carl Crawford, great speed coming up when we return to Fenway.
ESPN Wednesday Night Baseball, presented by Goodyear. Brought to you by Puerto Rico. No passport required for U.S. citizens. And Nissan, who invites you to shift the way you move through the world.
Just a yucky night here at Fenway Park. Well, the baseball's been pretty good, especially the pitching. Josh Beckett and the right-hander Edwin Jackson. Top half of the 3rd inning, no score, and top of the order for Tampa Bay. The Rays sitting a half game in front of Boston, 4 games in front of Toronto in early June. These are high times for this franchise that has been around for 11 years, and it's been a total of 15 days in first place during their first decade. And this season, already 22 days in first place in a very tough division. Iwamura lined out to right field his first time up. He's 0 for 1.
Well, this guy right here knows about winning. And we figured that out during the World Baseball Classic when he just starred for Team Japan. Hit .389 in the 6 games that he played.
He teamed up with a man who is now a Red Sox star, Daisuke Matsuzaka. Matsuzaka was the MVP of that World Baseball Classic.
You just think about the team that he played on with Fukudome of the Cubs. Of course, Daisuke Ichiro was on that team. Akinori Otsuka was on that team, one of their closers. Great pitching, great defense. And you know what? I think that Team USA learned a lot about that. I think that it's when they put together the next team for the World Baseball Classic, OB, it's not about individuals. It's putting people together that can play as a team. And Japan was able to do that. The United States did not.
Japan just never made any mistakes. Never hurt themselves. Fundamentally just about perfect. A high fly to right. That's over near the stands. J.D. Drew slicing over, reaches up and makes the play. Of course, he had a lot of friendly faces over there to help him out as we go to John Seibel for a Sports Center in-game update.
Well, the Houston Astros trying to stay relevant in the National League Central, where the Cubs nor the Brewers can lose, and they're getting some help from Ty Wigginton in the third. His third shot of the season as he gets every single stitch of this pitch. The Astros lead at 1-0 this game in the fourth. Guys?
John, thank you very much. Here's Carl Crawford now. He singled his first time up and then was glued to first base until he finally moved up on another base hit by Cliff Floyd a couple of batters later. But Crawford has been one of the top speed merchants in baseball over the years. And last year stealing 50, the year before 58. Encumbered right now by a knee problem.
OB just watching that swing. He's favoring something right there, and it's got to be the knee. That was a painful swing on the part of Crawford. I just wonder if being on base, he had to go, all the way to second on the base hit. Should have been to third on the base hit by Cliff Floyd. Didn't get there. He does not look comfortable.
Yeah, he's also been one of the best triples hitters in the majors. Had 19 in 2004, 15, and then 16.
How about that for this team to lose their twin and also Crawford?
1-2 pitch, got the inside corner even though he jackknifed. Beckett strikes him out. 95 on the gun. Out number 2. Hey, 2 nights of great baseball coming up on ESPN. Sunday night baseball presented by Taco Bell at 8 Eastern. The first place Cubs taking on the Los Angeles Dodgers in the game of the week. And then Monday night on ESPN at 7. An AL Central showdown. It's the Indians and the Tigers. That's a heck of a matchup there too. Cliff Lee against Dontrell Willis. Of course, has had injury problems this season for Detroit. B.J. Upton in. He struck out looking his first time up.
No problems for Cliff Lee. Wow.
What a comeback for him. Wasn't that long ago he was toiling in the minors. Totally remade himself, and he's become one of the top winners in baseball.
While his team was trying to get to the World Series.
Upton takes one in tight for a ball.
But of course that AL championship went through the Boston Red Sox in Fenway, and Cleveland was not able to get it out of this ballpark. CC Sabathia, Carmona, I think that crowd had something. No, I'm sure the lineup did too, but the crowd had a lot to do with their performance.
Yeah, remember the Indians had a 3-1 lead in that best-of-7 series.
And what I'll never forget was Beckett in Game 5. To get it back here to Boston, he had to do what he did throughout the postseason and dominate. He shut them down. He shut down that crowd. It came back to Fenway, and then it went on to Denver, Colorado, and of course the championship came after that.
The 1-2 to Upton. It was not like the strike zone tonight at all from Paul Emmel. He's questioned him on 2 occasions already, so they are not seeing eye to eye.
Well, what he's seeing are the best pitches of the night from Beckett. Painting the inside corners, knocking him down, throwing the hook on the outside corner in the first at bat.
See if he throws a curveball here. It goes back to the heater. He went outside and low with that offering. Went back to the fastball. BJ actually named Melvin Emanuel when he was born, but he goes by BJ. That stands for Boss Man Jr. His dad Manny is the original Boss Man. His father was a pretty good athlete as well. 3-2 is cut on and missed. He blew him away. For the second time, Beckett strikes out one of the top hitters for the Rays, BJ Upton. Beckett with his best inning so far tonight. Back at Fenway on Wednesday Night Baseball presented by Goodyear. No score yet. The Rays and the Red Sox. Boston has won all 4 meetings against Tampa Bay here at Fenway Park this year. Meanwhile, the Rays have won all 3 at Tropicana Field in St. Pete. Here's Coco Crisp.
When was the last time Boston lost here?
It's been 11 consecutive wins for the Red Sox. Both these teams really love playing in their home parks. The Red Sox have struggled on the road. They just came off a 4-6 road trip. It also saw them lose Daisuke Matsuzaka and David Ortiz to the DL. Very costly trip indeed. And during that trip, Tampa Bay playing so well at home, winning all those dramatic walk-off games. And they grabbed first place away from the Red Sox. Chris slumping right now, but knocks a base hit into right field. Had a big hit last night, a 2-run double. He appears to be off the schneid. And here in Boston, everybody waiting for the Lakers and the Celtics. The NBA Finals on ABC tipping off Thursday night. The Lakers and the Celtics for the 11th time in the title. The Celtics winning the first 8 meetings. Los Angeles the last 2. ABC, your destination for the NBA Finals. Coverage begins at 8:30 Eastern. And the Red Sox, with a tip of the cap to the Celtics, changed their start time on Thursday. A game that was going to begin at 7, they backed it to 6 o'clock because they want everyone to be able to get home and see the Celtics and the Lakers.
Well, if you're a sports fan, this is a part of the country to live in right now, isn't it?
Here's Julio Lugo with Crisp at first base, so good speed in the box and on the bag. And Aaron Andrews, that is ball 1. But the NBA Finals, Aaron, everybody in town is talking about that series.
Everybody's in town, and everybody in the Red Sox clubhouse talking about it. Jonathan Papelbon with courtside seats on Sunday. There's talk Beckett has a box, and all the guys are going to go in. David Ortiz, good friends with Kevin Garnett, back from Minnesota. He's looking forward to getting his mind off being on the DL and heading to the game. And, of course, you know, Terry Francona, friends with Doc Rivers, head coach of the Celtics. They've texted one another. Just, you can tell everyone in that clubhouse is just ready to get off the baseball field and go on down to the parquet and root on the Celts.
Yeah, Francona and Doc Rivers have become close friends. They do a lot of texting, which I know Aaron does too. Aaron is a world-class texter.
Oh, and the fastest.
The fastest, but Terry Francona says that Doc Rivers is great at it. And that's how they do a lot of communicating when the Celtics are winning playoff games and the Red Sox are watching, you know, inside the clubhouse. They fire texts back and forth. Of course, Terry Francona once managed Michael Jordan when Michael made his professional baseball attempt several years ago.
And Michael loved playing for Tito. And Tito loved managing Michael because Michael brought his bus with him.
And paid for everything. And bought all the meals. And they ate very well there at Binghamton. They count 2 balls, 2 strikes, 96 miles an hour. The fastball is coming from Jackson between 96 and 98.
And how about Tito? I mean, you think about how far he's come from managing in Double-A and Michael Jordan to managing the All-Star team this year at Yankee Stadium. 79th All-Star game.
2-2 to Lugo is fouled away off to the right. Jacoby Ellsbury on deck.
You know, and he's going to have a lot of familiar faces on that American League All-Star team with him if the voting continues as it is. Right now, Manny, Varitek, Youkilis, Pedroia, and even Big Papi. He obviously won't play, but all of them leading in the voting.
I'm at Double-A Birmingham. Stop there.
And right now, everybody in that is thinking if we our normal first baseman there would be 2 outs and nobody on. But instead, Pena going to the disabled list and Ellsbury going to second base. Take a look at this. They got him. He was going. Tried to apply the tag, but Hinske did not have the baseball.
Looked like it caught a piece of the arm as well of Jacoby Ellsbury. On the throw, deflection. And it's an E1. So the Red Sox leading here 1-0 have another runner at second base. Pedroia has driven in 28 runs. And he takes a strike. Although he's not real happy with the call from Paul Emmel, is hearing it from both sides. 2 balls and 2 strikes.
I thought that was a strike. I think it kind of froze him there. Look at him kind of buckle a little bit. This guy's throwing so hard. The ball starts out at you. You're going to give to begin with, but it was a breaking ball. Fooled on the pitch.
J.D. Drew on deck. This is pitch number 51 for Edwin Jackson. Cut on and missed, and Pedroia angry. He did glare back at the home plate ump Emmel, but as K-Zone showed, the pitch he's angry about was a strike.
Yeah, and that's a reaction from a young man, OB, as you said earlier, struggling. Hitting under 180 over the last 14 games. 0 for 3 last night with 2 strikeouts. Walked his first time up, but not able to make contact here in his second at bat.
Now Jackson picking up his 4th strikeout. And Drew gets in. He flied out to center in the first inning. He's 0 for 1. Manny Ramirez lurking in the on-deck area, but there are 2 away.
Well, and you might need to say that for some of the people in our audience to hear, but believe me, Jackson knows who's in that on-deck circle. And if there was one place in baseball right now I'd want to hit, it'd be in J.D. Drew's spot. You're going to get a cookie right here.
Well, it's 2-0. He's missed with back-to-back changeups. He can't get Drew to chase. J.D. Drew, a very selective hitter. Last season, one of the things some Red Sox fans found frustrating about him was they thought he was a little too selective. Taking pretty good pitches he could drive just a hair off the corner. In for a strike, 2-1. Another changeup.
Wow.
Well, you don't see that every day. A guy who throws as hard as Edwin Jackson starting a hitter with 3 consecutive off-speed pitches.
Jackson 5 and 15 a year ago. You can turn that record around if you can continue to throw that pitch.
He backs him off, and the count moves to 3-1.
This is interesting here. I know that Jackson struck out Manny in the first at bat in the first inning, but I've never seen anybody that, you know, would pitch around anybody to get to Manny. They did it with Big Papi a couple of times, and Manny made him pay.
Ellsbury with the lead at second. Punched into right. Gross back. It's over his head. That's going to skip right into the stands, but the run is in. It'll be a run scoring double for J.D. Drew, is really hot right now. And really at a perfect time from the Red Sox standpoint with Ortiz on the DL. That makes it 2-0 Boston.
Well, OB, you said he hit the home run last night and helping them to the win along with 2 nice defensive plays. Take a look at the at bat here. Missing, trying to get on the plate. There's a changeup, a perfect pitch. He takes it. There's the fastball right there. Look at him, just locked in, knowing that he's going to get a strike. I mean, by design, nobody wants to walk you to put 2 men on to get to this guy at home plate right now.
Manny Ramirez, a strikeout victim in the first inning. But looking to post the 4th hit in this inning off of Edwin Jackson. It was very tough to see in the first couple of innings, but the Red Sox are getting better looks. Big swing and a miss for strike 1 to Manny Ramirez. Ramirez in Baltimore the other night over the weekend on Saturday. Camden Yards becoming the 3rd Red Sox hitter in their franchise history to hit 500 homers. The other 2, Jimmy Fox and Ted Williams. The 0-1 pitch in for a strike. On the slider there, Manny connecting for career home run number 500 on May 31st off Chad Bradford. Drove the first pitch into the seats. The next day hit his 501st home run of Brian Burris in the 4th. Had a 3 RBI day, and then following that up, Manny ripping his 12th home run off of Jeremy Guthrie for number 502. One and 2 the count.
You know, Manny just turned 36 years of age, but I'm telling you what, to me, he looks like he's in the prime of his career, even with those career numbers.
312 lifetime average. On a pace to get 3,000 hits in his career sometime in 2012. He hopes to do it with the Red Sox. Just got a piece of that one on the count 1-2. Of course, Theo Epstein and the Red Sox front office will have to pick up the options and then sign him to a multi-year contract after that if it's going to happen as a member of the Red Sox.
You know, it was just a couple of years ago that Theo put Manny on waivers.
That's right. and from time to time, Manny Ramirez has talked about asking for a trade. Now everything seems to be all sweetness and light for Manny and the Red Sox. Runner at second, foul ball on the check swing.
I know one thing about Theo. If you continue to produce, he'll bring you back. But if it looks like things are starting to get away from you, he doesn't care whether it's Manny or Pedro Martinez
or Nomar Garciaparra.
Nomar, he has proven it.
Epstein's timing on Garciaparra, a lot of folks in Boston questioned it at the time because at that time Garciaparra seemed on a fast track to the Hall of Fame. But in retrospect, it was genius. It really was, although he couldn't leave his house for a few days. Talking about Theo Epstein. Foul ball, and the count's still 1-2.
Well, he could always put on, what was that costume he
the
left?
gorilla outfit?
Yeah, he had a gorilla outfit on that he left Fenway in.
He got by the media who wanted to grill him on a front office matter, and was able to toss that on and walk right by him.
You know, the thing I remember most about Theo was after the '04 World Series, that night, OB, he was telling us how he had to get to work on the farm system. And you know what? He did it. And all of a sudden they won it last year with a lot of those guys.
1-2 pitch hammered into left center field for a base hit. Here comes Drew rounding third. He will score easily. Manny Ramirez driving in his 40th run of the season. He too is swinging a hot bat. The Red Sox have scored 3 times here in the third off Jackson.
Let's take a look here. There's a breaking ball. He pulled off of it to begin with. Takes the next one. Now Manny's got to go to work. He's got to make some adjustment. Lays off that pitch. There's a fastball. All right, I'm starting to see it. Starting to catch up with a little bit. You fooled me there. I'm not worried about that. Now I'm on the fastball. What do you got for me? Another fastball. I can get that pitch. You could just see the progression throughout that at bat, OB, of his bat starting to catch up and make contact with things out in front of the plate until he finally got you.
Well, in his previous 5 games, Jackson had held opponents to 3 for 29 with runners in scoring position, but the Red Sox have gone 3 for 4 off him in those spots tonight.
The guy that's got to feel good right now, along with their offense and the RBI, is that man right there, OB, with the number 9 hitter. He stayed out of the double play, giving the top of the order these opportunities.
Mike Lowe socks that one, caught by Longoria. Tremendous play, leaping up. That would have been a double and might have meant another run for Boston. The Red Sox settle for 3. We welcome you back to Wednesday Night Baseball from Fenway, presented by Goodyear. 3-0 Red Sox onto the 4th inning. So some run support for the right-hander Josh Beckett. The Red Sox getting to Edwin Jackson finally after he had shut them down in the first couple of innings.
Had a no-hitter going the first 2.
Cliff Floyd trying to get some of that back now. Base hit for the big left-hand hitter. And he takes a fastball in there for a strike. Longoria will follow. Longoria just made a outstanding defensive play to rob Mike Lowell of what was certainly an extra base hit and maybe another Red Sox run if Ramirez could have scored on it. Now Beckett in the 3rd inning really seemed to start to get it going. He had back-to-back strikeouts to conclude that frame. Got the first 3 in order and did not have to face Cliff Floyd, who singled off him in the opening inning. And Beckett fires in for a strike. Now that fastball certainly there. He's been 95 to 96. The curveball occasionally, although Varitek has stayed away from that in crucial spots for the most part tonight. The 0-2 home. There's the breaking ball. Did he offer? He did not. Chad Fairchild says no swing. I remember Cliff Floyd in his days with the Montreal Expos. I know you do too, at the very beginning of his career. Remember that horrific wrist injury he had where his wrist shattered on a tag play at first?
Montreal.
Up in Montreal.
Absolutely.
At Olympic Stadium. The very start of a real promising career for Cliff Floyd as he looks at a ball down low.
You know, at that time, a lot of people were doubting that he would ever be able to play again. It was so bad.
You remember how cavernous old Olympic Stadium used to be.
Sure.
Fans who were in the upper deck of the ballpark that day heard that wrist shatter. It was just gruesome. And he screamed out in agony. He didn't play a whole lot of first base after that, really. That one hit sharply foul into the stands. And as Floyd really turned on that fastball.
Well, he's such a big guy, and he's so strong and likes to extend those long arms. Beckett just pounding the inside part of the plate. Look at him here. Well, that was scary. I mean, he right away. Even Cliff took a look over there. You're just so close to the action, which is another one of the charms of this ballpark. But something like that's scary.
Especially a guy who hits the ball this hard. But look at this squibber on the changeup, fielded by Beckett. Got him at first base. That might have been his best fastball of the night. And he's been throwing very hard, as he always does. Floyd retired, but a good off-speed pitch to get him.
I was really more impressed with the play by Josh Beckett here than I was the pitch. I mean, he's starting to get command of the fastball, the changeup. The curve's still not quite there yet. But this is really a nice play just to get that leadoff hitter by a half step.
Floyd missing a half step anyway. Missed a month with right knee surgery back in April into the early days of May. Here's Longoria, and he flied out to center first time up. He takes strike one. Beckett is really starting to pound in that first strike, isn't he?
Yeah, he's favoring that first base side of home plate, whether it be a right-handed or left-handed hitter, and he's got that release point down.
Longoria, 22-year-old rookie, called up the first month of the season, first couple of weeks of the regular season from AAA Durham. And he has started 47 out of 48 games since his arrival. We talked about the big contract he signed as well. But since they brought him up, Tampa Bay is 31-17. That cannot be an accident.
Well, we saw his defense, all the different ways he can contribute. What I'm impressed with is the maturity of this young man. Not overwhelmed by any of this. Just how everything he says and does is so measured. He's very confident, but in a shy type way. Tampa Bay knew what they were doing when they long-termed this guy.
One man out, base is empty. Beckett got them in order in the third inning. He misses the corner there. The curveball still is not 100% right for Beckett. Although the changeup, he made a great pitch on Floyd.
Well, the curveball's so good, nobody's doing anything with it. They're not able to make contact, but they don't have to because he's not able to locate it in the strike zone. We're talking about him like he's giving up 5 runs.
Socked into right center field. Crisp on his horse racing into that triangle. He will not get it. He has to play it off that short wall. And Longoria, who almost hit one into the bullpen there to the deepest part of Fenway, will have a double with one man out. And for more on Longoria, let's get down to Erin Andrews.
Well, I'm talking about Evan Longoria. We decided he would be our big league moment this week. And, you know, his debut into the majors, April 12th versus Baltimore. He got his first hit that game, but he said that wasn't the game. That was his welcome to the bigs moment. He said it had to be his first home run, and that was against the Yankees off of Brian Bruni. And he said he got a curtain call, and he had no idea what that was all about. And all of a sudden, his teammates were pushing him out there. Carlos Pena said, "You got to get out there. Go, go, go." He said it was a very surreal moment. He's glad he got the hang of it right away.
Well, he's gotten the hang of a lot of things as a big leaguer. It did not take all that long, did it? In there for a strike on Navarro.
Was the power out at our hotel at some point today?
Open my. You know what? It is so misty and rainy. I don't even want to hear it. And you didn't even stay at our hotel. By the way, we're 30 minutes away. Guess who's downtown this weekend?
Oh, Mr. Downtown, yeah.
I am not bitter at all.
Forget to pack their curling iron.
It's a ponytail, all right?
I don't know.
You must have put on Big Papi's hat that he had.
Are we allowed to now be mean to Sut? Is the sympathy bit over? We can be mean to him?
No.
How's Sut's hair looking right now?
I don't know. It looks fabulous, actually. It's worth $1 million. Although my understanding is that, you know, if you're doing Jimmy Kimmel, they have a full crew to work on everything.
How did she know that's where I would? Yeah, is Jimmy. When's that? Is that tomorrow?
Aaron, when's the Jimmy Kimmel appearance? Is that tomorrow or tonight, or when is it?
That is tomorrow before the NBA Finals game. And yes, my hair looks a heck of a lot better on that. But come on, it's horrible weather today. I'm not all cool wearing a headset. I got to be out here in the elements, if you will.
You look great. Don't worry about it.
I feel great. I need a hot dog. You guys were just eating.
Yeah.
We're not eating hot dogs up here
at the ballpark.
Oh, we've got gourmet from the new bleacher bar delivered.
Navarro 0 for 1. He is grounded out to short.
How did she know I was talking about her?
That's good point.
I mean, I didn't even get it out, and I got jumped on there.
No light touch on you, though. You know, couple of weeks back from cancer, and that's it for you.
Yeah, no. She I tell you, she put on the mittens for that one. She wanted to say more.
Longoria at second base as Tampa Bay tries to break through against Beckett. 3-0 Boston, and fouled away by Navarro, swinging a real good bat these days. 339 since he came off the DL on April 22nd.
Well, Obi, you made a great point. With Big Papi out, people have to step up, and J.D. Drew did that last night, again tonight in his spot. The same thing has to happen for Tampa Bay. Their big boy went down in Pena. He hadn't got going yet, but that's 46 homers. That presence is not there. This is one of those guys, Navarro, right now that needs to do something to keep this team in it.
He gets jackknifed out of the way, and they count 2 balls and 2 strikes. There was a little bit of maybe internal debate about Carlos Pena, who wanted to try to continue to play despite the fractured index finger. He was struck by a pitch last night. They put him on the DL pretty quickly.
Well, they finished the game last night. We were talking about, you were telling me before the game tonight.
Played very well after that. That one fouled away off to the right. Back to last night in the Red Sox victory. The big bat for Tampa Bay, struck by the pitch. Pena in pain there, but he stayed in the ball game and gutted it out the rest of the way.
Well, he's not happy that he's on the disabled list, and Troy Percival not happy as well. Troy, so we look at him there, what a great job he's done, particularly in that clubhouse, along with 14 of 16 saves. But he didn't want to go on the DL. He thought they jumped the gun on him. He was only going to miss a few days.
A hamstring in Percival's case, and a fractured finger in Pena's case. So 2 key losses for a team that in June and July is going to play a lot more road games than they played in April and May. The 2-2 on the way to Navarro. Ground ball up the middle, but that's Lugo behind the bag. Throws on to get him. Longoria safely into third, but with 2 down. Time for an update. Back to the studio, and our man is John Seibel. John.
Well, guys, you know you're in good company when you get mentioned with the likes of Lou Gehrig, Babe Ruth, and Mickey Mantle. In the bottom of the third, you see Derek Jeter collect his 2,416th hit. It did drive in a run. That hit moves him past the Mick into third place all time on the Yankees hit list. Gentlemen.
Boy, that'll catch your attention a little bit, huh? As good as everybody knows that Derek Jeter has been for so long, that is some company he keeps. Here's Hinske now, doubled his first time up, breaks his bat, swats that one into center field. Down for a base hit. It'll chase in Longoria, and Tampa Bay is on the board against Beckett. That makes it 3-1 Boston. 2 hits for Hinske.
One of those things where you'd like to prove your old team wrong for letting you go. Hinske came back with a double in his first at bat, and now with a man on third base and 2 outs, he hits it off the end, but big enough, strong enough to get it over the infield and down in time to finally put Tampa Bay on the board.
So just when it appeared that Beckett had really settled down and might go through that, 16 or 17 in a row retired, they get to him to a couple of hits here. And an RBI single from Hinske, and here's Gross swinging a high fly ball into left center, but Ellsbury moving over, and he will put it away. Tampa Bay cracks the scoreboard. We've played 3.5 on a misty night in Boston, and the Red Sox lead it 3-1. Boys and Girls Clubs of America is the official charity of Major League Baseball, reaching over 4 million kids worldwide. Together, they create a positive place for kids. These kids are a little soggy tonight, but loving the night at Fenway Park here in Boston. Red Sox leading Tampa Bay 3-1. Even some Rays fans here. They're not used to getting rained on necessarily, not at the ballpark anyway.
You know what, Obi, I've always wanted to talk about this since we've been talking about the Boys and Girls Club. Back when I was with Cleveland and just getting started, I went to a picnic, and it was for the Boys and Girls Club. And
Youkilis knocks that one into left field for a base hit. Picked off by Crawford. It'll be a long single for Kevin Youkilis.
And the guy was telling me they needed $5,000 to keep the program going. And I didn't have it. And I mean, I honestly, I literally sat there and cried with him. I said, I'm sorry, I don't have the money. And the guy told me something that changed my life. And this is for everybody out there. He said, one thing I don't want you to forget. He goes, 5 minutes of your time is worth more to these kids than 5,000 of your dollars. And I tried to never forget that. And you know what? That holds true for everybody out there that's involved with the Boys and Girls Club.
The time more than the money.
It's so important. Exactly.
Jason Varitek 0 for 1. He struck out his first trip. Youkilis on at first base with the 5th Red Sox hit of the ball game. Varitek actually a good bunter.
He wasn't thinking sacrifice there either. He saw that Longoria was back, and he's not back now, but he was going to bunt for a base hit there. If you give it to me, I'll take it.
Overall hitting .267, but against Tampa Bay in his career, .288 with 16 homers. Really crowding that plate on the left side against Jackson. Youkilis takes off, swinging a ground ball that's going to get through for a base hit. Well, the Red Sox again putting a man in motion, and for the second time it pays off. You see the ability of Varitek to handle the bat as well.
Well, and you see Terry Francona. I just don't think he gets enough credit for the things that he does, particularly with the bottom of the order. He doesn't mess with the heart of the order. Big Papi and Manny can do what they want. But this is all him right here. Varitek, I'm only hitting .260 coming into play. he struck out swinging in his first at bat. So what does he do? He puts on the hit and run. Youkilis with no speed, but you get the shortstop to move. The third baseman's in. You got a wide open lane out there just to play pepper with the left fielder. That's Terry Francona right there, as much as it is Jason Varitek.
Well, Francona, not a manager, as you said, who manages just to manage. He believes with his lineup when it's intact, especially when it's Ortiz in there hitting third, that he can pretty much sit back and pick his spots over the course of a season. But that might be an indication he's going to do more of this sort of thing with Ortiz out, because he feels like he has to.
Well, and how about, you talk about all the wins for, how about his resume in the World Series? Talk about being 8-0 as a manager in the World Series.
Well, and 2 of the great comebacks in playoff history against the Yankees and then last year against Cleveland.
Great point.
Here's Crisp, a base hit for Coco Crisp, his last time up. Runners at first and third, nobody out. And Crisp beginning to heat up with the bat as well. He looks at a strike.
Well, he went through that tough spell, that 0 for 23. Ended that Monday. And then last night, credited with the game winner. A double in the 6th inning, gave them the lead.
It wasn't until the 10th and final game of the most recent Red Sox road trip, when they got to Baltimore, that he got his first hit on that trip. He fouls that one away for a strike, and it's 0-2. Last night he gave the Red Sox the lead with a 2-run bases loaded double in the 6th inning. That was his first extra base hit since May 24th. He is 4 for his last 40 coming into tonight. But against Madden and company, a base hit already. Youkilis at third, Varitek on at first. High fly to left center. Here's Upton to cover the space, makes the catch. Youkilis will tag up and come on in to score. The throw not in time, and an excellent throw by Upton. That made that a lot closer than maybe Youkilis thought it was going to be. But he does get in to make it 4-1.
How about that? I didn't even think that throw. I thought it'd go to second base. I didn't think he had a chance. He circled it. He got in perfect position. He knew who the runner was. Youkilis is not a burner. And he gave himself an opportunity to pick up that out. Get down, get down. You got to be kidding me. Youkilis is thinking he's not coming home. Wait a minute, the catcher's in my way. Upton already with 6 outfield assists from center field. That's rare.
Well, that was a terrific chuck, although didn't get him. And here's Lugo. One man out, a pitch out, no play on this time. So Francona has clearly gotten into the head of Joe Maddon here.
Simple little thing. I mean, it's only one pitch. He's not going, but you know what? You look at the numbers. A hitter with an opportunity to hit 1-0 as opposed to 0-1. Oh, the numbers are huge.
Lugo has had his issues defensively. He has committed a lot of errors as he takes one inside for a ball. He has made 12 errors, second most in the majors.
So many good things that have happened around here. Obviously, to win 2 World Series the last few years. But I think this is one contract here that if they had to do over again, they probably wouldn't do. Played for Tampa. You know, he was never really known for his defense, particularly there. He could swing the bat a little bit. And you know what he did last year. 73 RBIs. I mean, that's a bunch for a guy that usually at the bottom of the order. But I think they expected him to take his game to another level when he started playing for a winning team, and Lugo hasn't done that yet.
Well, and frankly, the first baseman for the Red Sox, Youkilis, has saved him a bunch of errors on low throws because Youkilis is one of the very best at digging those throws out of the dirt. Low, and the count goes to 3 balls and 1 strike. Jackson for the second straight inning having some problems here. He gave up 3 runs on 4 hits in the third, another run in on 2 hits here in the 4th inning.
Oh, but he's always had problems in this ballpark. Young man is 24 years of age. 5th appearance here at Fenway, and his ERA is right at 8.5 coming into play tonight.
The 3-1 is up top for ball 4. He walks Julio Lugo. That is not a real easy thing to do. That puts runners at first and second. Right now we go back to John Seibel, Studio Sports Center right now.
Here's what's going on SportsCenter. 41-year-old John Smoltz says he wants to come back in 09 as a 42-year-old. To do so, he'll have to come back from season-ending shoulder surgery. Smoltz, the only pitcher in Major League history with 200-plus wins and 150-plus saves. Not yet ready to call it a career. And if Big Brown's going to complete the Triple Crown, he's going to have to get the 3rd jewel from the rail. That's where he'll start Saturday's race. He's the early 2-5 favorite. Next SportsCenter, 11 Eastern, 7 Alaskan. You can always stay current on ESPN News, guys.
John, thank you very much. Red Sox building another threat here. Just 1 man out in the 4th inning. A run in this inning. Boston ahead 4-1. They have Varitek at second, Lugo at first, and Ellsbury in the box, and he takes a strike. One of the things the Red Sox really love about Jacoby Ellsbury, he thinks triple every time he swings the bat. Coming out of the box, if he hits it into the alley or down the lines, he thinks he's going to get 3 bases. Now on this one, no 3 base hits, but he has single, and he's also popped out. Fastball at 94, 95, and sometimes 96 out of Jackson, but he is having some difficulty here the last 2 innings, putting hitters away with it.
Well, he's let the leadoff guy get on in both of the last 2 innings. Both of them have come around to score. So obviously, Obi, he's a lot more comfortable out of the windup than he is the stretch. Something he's got to work on.
1-1, little pop up around third. Longoria into foul territory. Infield fly in effect, and he makes the catch. And Jacoby Ellsbury is now 1 for 3. So that'll send up Dustin Pedroia. who has taken ball 4 and also struck out tonight. The weather has certainly let up. It was an ugly afternoon here in the New England area. The rains at times were heavy. There were some thunder showers as well, but this game was not in jeopardy. It started on time, despite the wet conditions.
We knew we were going to play. There's 37,000 reasons here tonight why this game was going to be played.
The Red Sox going over 1 million in attendance last night. Fastest in franchise history. A soft bounding ball. Longoria zips it into Iwamura for out number 3, and the Red Sox get one more. And at the end of Ford Fenway, it's 4-1 Boston. Well, you see so far tonight, Josh Beckett in command. He's got himself a 4-1 lead over the Tampa Bay Rays. Red Sox trying to pass Tampa Bay and reclaim first place in the American League East tonight. Beckett will get the number 9 man and then the 1 and 2 hitters here into the 5th inning. Bartlett 0 for 1. He is lined out to center field. The former Minnesota Twin batting here. Beckett chasing his 6th win of the year. A night like tonight, which started out certainly on the cool side. The wind was blowing in initially. Now that flag in center field is quite still. But a misty night, kind of on the raw side. Here comes the 0-1 pitch, and that's up and in. But Sut, a good night to pitch?
Well, it didn't seem like that early. I mean, it looked like Jackson was just going through the lineup with ease, and Beckett was the one struggling. But, OB, we hear it so many times, and it's so true that with a great pitcher like Beckett, if you don't get him early, most of the time you're not going to get him.
Yeah, they had 3 hits off him in the first couple of innings. They threaten in the first. Deep short, backhanded by Lugo. That throw is in time. He just got him. And Lugo with a good chuck there and a nice stretch by Youkilis, the Gold Glover, to help him out.
Really a nice play all the way around. Bartlett with good speed. 10 stolen bases already this year. Had over 20 last year. You better get rid of it in a hurry. Lugo with great arm strength. Terrific stretch on the part of Youkilis. And again, we've talked about how important it is that leadoff man, Beckett, able to retire him with some help from his friends.
Iwamura has gone 0 for 2. He has lined to right and flied out to right. He stings that one into center field for a base hit. And like you see so many hitters from Japan almost carrying it with him out of that left side of the box. We've seen it so often with Ichiro, and now with Iwamura with a base hit.
Fukudome too for the Cubs, and the big hits he's had. Look at this, everything gone except the barrel of the bat. Everything's out there. There's no power there. All you've got is just your hand. But you see that. Look at the eyes. Look at the concentration. Right back up the middle. He almost fell down, just trying to stay up. But he saw something up, and that's what he wanted to swing at.
That brings up Carl Crawford, who has singled and struck out tonight. He takes a ball down low. Now the Red Sox with a 3-run advantage here in game 2 of the series. Boston winning last night 7-4. A night that saw Jonathan Papelbon, the Red Sox outstanding closer, throwing 99 miles an hour in the 9th inning, and many pitches at 99. 2-0 on Crawford. Of course, the Tampa Bay bullpen has been a backbone of this ball club,
as opposed to a year ago,
where it was terrible. Last year, an ERA over 6 in that bullpen.
Highest easily in the majors. They added some veterans down there, of course, in Percival, Wheeler.
And it got better in a hurry. Got far more reliable as that one is flicked foul by Crawford. 2 balls, 1 strike. And it's become one of the better bullpens in all of baseball.
OB, he's not right. I think that's some of the reason for those guys holding their heads down there. Watch this swing. This is a 2-0 fastball. He's got absolutely nothing coming from that back leg. They might have said that, you know, you're okay, you should be able to play. He's not. That's just Carl Crawford's going to have to go on the disabled list.
2-2 the count.
You know, it's one thing if you can go out there and produce and you can, you know, you can deal with an injury like that. But with him not having a back leg, and OB, we've seen a situation where he could have run and he didn't, taking his speed away from him. It's counterproductive. It's not helping.
Caught and right into a double play as Youkilis just taps the bag. Iwamura was already gone. He had no hope to get back. And Beckett, although he got tagged for a line drive, right into a twin killing.
Templeton.
Well, we're at the midway point here at Fenway, and the Red Sox have a 4-1 lead on Tampa Bay. Rick Sutcliffe, Dave O'Brien, and Aaron Andrews with you. And the Red Sox coming to bat here in the person of J.D. Drew, who has doubled in a run and flying out to center. That one off Navarro's mitt.
There was a message there. Remember when Bartlett got knocked down? Somebody said something to Mr. Jackson, and he went out there and returned the favor. Now he's got to go to work. This is a huge point in this ball game, OB. He has got to put a 0 up here, and it doesn't get any tougher doing it with this part of the order for Boston. But to have any chance to pick up a victory, he needs to put a 0 up right now and give his team some momentum to go try to get the lead.
Number 3 hitter here in Drew. Then it's Manny Ramirez and Mike Lowell, and Youkilis after them. The Red Sox already with a 3-run advantage. Drew pushing 300. Manny Ramirez tonight with a base hit. That is ball 4. Not a good start. If it's a shutdown inning for Jackson, he walks a man. You can join host Carl Ravitch and our analysts Peter Gammons, Steve Phillips, Chris Singleton for the MLB first-year player draft on ESPN2 Thursday at 2 Eastern. All 30 picks in round 1 and 16 of the compensation picks. See what future stars will be filling your team's farm system. BJ Upton, a first-round pick, and so is Evan Longoria, who is manning 3rd. They are on the verge of becoming major league stars in their own rights.
And how about the kid that Tampa Bay took last year with the #1 overall pick?
Ramirez with a high fly ball into right field. Gross backing up and just shy of the track will make the catch. Well, the wind took that one a little bit, pushed it back to his left. Let's quickly go back to the studio and talk of a no-hitter tonight.
Yeah, guys, we tried to jinx both Edinson Volquez and Brett Myers a couple innings ago. It worked on Volquez. He's given up 2 singles in the game, but Brett Myers is still throwing 0s under the hit column. He has struggled with his control a little bit. He's walked 3, but through 6, no score and no hits given up by Brett Myers. Send you back to Boston. Gentlemen.
John, thanks. Pretty nasty stuff there out of Myers. And Mike Lowell gets in. He has flied out and lined out tonight. It has not been a very good year for Myers to this point. Trying to clean it up with a no-no, and strike 1 to Mike Lowell.
They know about no-hitters here in Boston.
They just had one recently. Of course, John Lester. That was on the heels of Clay Buchholz late last season. 2 youngsters out of that Red Sox farm system that you were raving about.
Well, and what, Theo Epstein's goal was after the 04 World Series was to fix the farm system. And this is a guy that came through it, came through in a hurry. And just recently, as you said, came through with that no-hitter. There it was, 96 miles an hour on the 130th pitch of the night for John Lester. And as we know, John coming back from the bout with cancer.
Now, which is interesting, obviously, for you personally, it would have been even had you not been going through what you're going right now, but you had a chance to talk with John and very serious conversation about this today.
What an impressive young man. And you look at the determination in his eyes, OB, as he talked about it, and you knew that he was going to have a chance. And there's a man at home plate right now, back in 1999. The same kind of success for Mike Lowell with cancer.
Mike Lowell, a survivor, rips that one into right center field. Here comes Gross to make the catch. And J.D. Drew retreating to first base. That is out number 2. Now, John Lester has made the statement. This was before he won Game 4 of the World Series last year, before he threw the no-hitter against Kansas City in May at Fenway Park, that he would like to be known as a pitcher first, a cancer survivor second. And I think he is well on that road.
I understand that. I mean, you're somewhat embarrassed talking about it, but it's important.
Cut on and missed by Kevin Youkilis, who has struck out tonight. He's 1 for 2.
And OB, just hearing Lester talk about how he's hoping that it won't be long before he doesn't have to go back every 3 months for that checkup, that it'll go to 6 months and a year and maybe more. I mean, I know what that's like. You sit there that night, you know, they do the PET scan, CAT scan, they draw blood and everything, and then you got to wait for the results.
That one gets by all the way to the backstop, and J.D. Drew will romp into second base. Of course, the emerging story, and Aaron Andrews was the one who broke this story. John Lester's father has been diagnosed with a different form of lymphoma than the one that John was diagnosed with. It's very treatable. He's going through those treatments right now.
Yeah, John was saying that he's tomorrow, I believe, he's got his 3rd treatment, and but the news is good. I mean, he's got a chance to recover, and obviously the passion to want to do that. And you know, you just, I mean, I'm 51 years old. I mean, like I told my family, if the news came back and it was different, it's been a heck of a ride. OB, for me, it's about the kids. It's about the Jimmy Fund and all these great things, all these great charities. It's about finding, you know, funding research so that we can find a cure, so that, you know, these 8-year-olds can get to 50. That's the part that crushes me.
Now, the Jimmy Fund, a wonderful charity that Ted Williams was involved in very intimately here in Boston. But Aaron, John Lester told you about his father.
Yeah, and you made the statement that Lester had said, you know, after the World Series, when he didn't want to be known as a pitcher who had cancer, but he said he was able to embrace that role more after the no-hitter. The reason why, as you mentioned, his father diagnosed with lymphoma as well, and he said it was my dad who made me realize, look, I'm a role model to people that have it. I'm someone that they can look up to. You know, Seth, I even mentioned to him that you had said during his no-hitter you started to cry, and John had said, I can accept it more now. People look up to me, and he said his dad being diagnosed is what it took.
I absolutely did, and I screamed when he threw that last pitch.
Fly ball well struck into right center, but Upton converges and makes the catch out in front of him for the 3rd out. We have wrapped up 5 on a wet night at Fenway, and it's 4-1 Red Sox. From Fenway Park, it's Wednesday Night Baseball presented by Goodyear. And after 5, it's the Red Sox in front of Tampa Bay 4-1. The Devil Rays trying to hold on to first place, but they need to win to make sure that happens tonight. And they knew going in it would be uphill against Josh Beckett. There's B.J. Upton taking a breaking ball in there for a strike. Upton, who has been Tampa Bay's best road hitter, hitting .310 away from Tropicana Field, has found it difficult tonight. He has struck out twice, 0 for 2.
Upton hit .335 on the road a year ago.
Well, since the start of their last road trip on May 16th, he's hit almost 400, batting .397 over a 17-game span with 11 stolen bases. You chatted him up inside the clubhouse, and you came away very impressed with his humility.
OB, I had no idea what I was going to find with you know, the boss man. You know, I had no clue, but their bench coach Dave Martinez says, "Such, you got to come meet this guy. You're going to love him." And he was exactly right. There was a shyness about him to begin with. It was just, I mean, he's so humble with all of his ability and everything that he's accomplished so quick. Just, you could tell he truly cares about the game. And I'm a big fan, a huge fan.
2-1 rattle toward third. Mike Lowell will backhand this. Upton grew up basically with David Wright, the New York Mets star. They started playing ball together when they were 8 years old. They played a little high school ball together as well, and they remained very good friends.
Dave Martinez, a very good bench coach.
One man out for Cliff Floyd, who has singled and also grounded back to the pitcher. Boy, Upton very upset with himself tonight, 0 for 3. We mentioned at the top of the telecast that they have lost Carlos Pena, one of their top run producers, to a fractured left index finger, suffered when he was hit by a pitch last night. Guy who drove in 121 runs for them last year. They also have Troy Percival, their closer, who's been equally outstanding.
Tell you what, who's been outstanding tonight, OB, has been Beckett. Now he has battled through some control problems early, really rounding into form now. His last start, he went 6 innings, 2 runs with 10 Ks against Baltimore. The outing before that, he had 7 innings, 2 runs allowed. He had a tough loss there against Oakland. And then he's back out there once again, just with a dominating performance.
Has not walked a soul. 4 strikeouts for the right-hander. Red Sox ace, and that one is fouled away. And I don't think there is a man inside the Red Sox clubhouse who would tell you anything but Josh Beckett is the ace, despite the fact that Matsuzaka got in front with that 8-0 start. But let's see, he might be hurt. There's something up with Beckett, as Terry Francona has to come out to visit with the righty.
Beckett said something to get the trainer to laugh, but no smile on the face of manager Terry Francona. He's concerned.
And looking down at the mound here as well.
You know, with Josh Beckett, I've always looked at the mound. OB, he's one of those guys who mechanically, if he's sound on that part of the dirt that he stands on, everything at the part of the dirt where Jason Varitek squats will be fine. We'll take a look here at that last pitch.
A little bit of a twist there at the end, didn't he?
Absolutely. It's almost like he wanted to get off of that right foot. And that's my key for Beckett. Beckett at times will get to where he leans back a little bit in his windup, and when he does that, OB, that right foot that's on the mound, it will start to rock a little bit. His right toe will come up into the air at times.
Back at it, and the pitch into the dirt on Cliff Floyd. 1 ball, 2 strikes. Came back with a curveball his first pitch after that awkward moment on the hill.
Boy, Terry Francona, that's the best time I've seen from him in a long time.
Getting out to that mound.
I played with Terry Francona and he didn't run like that, so yeah, he was worried.
Last year, of course, Beckett got off to a 9-0 start and then went on the disabled list. In there for strike 3. No argument at all out of Cliff Floyd, as he will walk away. There's the breaking ball for strike 3.
OB, let's talk a little mechanics here as we look at the great numbers for Beckett tonight. Take a look at his right toe. Take a look at how it's grounded. See how he gets back and he loads on that? Every now and then that right toe will come up and his command will be off. Take a look at tonight with that toe being nailed to the ground. He is painting the glove. He looks more like Picasso than Josh Beckett with command of that fastball. No curveball, no changeup really, but because of that right toe being nailed to the ground, he's able to move that fastball around. I heard many times from pitching coaches in the minor leagues that if you have a little trimmer down there at the bottom of your delivery, by the time you get up top, it's going to be an earthquake. And what I mean by that is if you look at home and a guy's all over the place, that's the result. Okay, you don't worry about the result. You got to go to the mound to find the reason.
Fouled back and a good rip by Longoria, who has doubled and flied out.
Just take a look here. Watch his right foot and how he gets back. He loads. But look at that toe. Look at how it stays down on the ground. And now he's got everything going in his direction. At times I've seen that toe of his get up a little bit higher. And that means he's leaning back a little too far rather than staying tall.
Sucked up the middle. Almost took Beckett with it. A base hit from Longoria, who is 2 out of 3. Let's go back to John in the studio for a Brett Myers no-hitter update.
Guys, Brett Myers did not go to college, but for 6 2/3 innings tonight, he was majoring in history. Operative word was, because with 2 outs in the 7th, Joey Votto hits a double. Myers' 5th walk of the game bites him as Brandon Phillips scores. Reds up 1-0, guys.
I would have said Bruce maybe breaks it up or Votto. That would have been my 2 choices.
Boy, you go from a no-hitter and all the excitement to all of a sudden now you might lose the game.
Well, here's Deanna Navarro. Longoria knocking his single into center field. Navarro has gone 0 for 2. He will take ball one.
We talked about key moments in the ball game. Usually there's 2 or 3 for a pitcher. This is one for Beckett right now. He needs to get Navarro out. Navarro has no power. He's only hit 1 home run this year. But when you've got 2 outs and the guy in the on-deck circle has power and is already 2 for 2 off of you, that's one of those key moments where you need to make something good happen.
It's Del Carmen throwing in the Red Sox bullpen out beyond the right field fence. Eric Hinske on deck for Tampa Bay. Del Carmen with a big fastball in his own right, although he has been very inconsistent. Red Sox bullpen performed very, very well last night in the 7-4 victory in game 1 of this series. Longoria getting his lead. High chop to the right side. Pedroia with an easy play at first, and the side is retired. So Beckett allows the single and nothing after that. Red Sox coming up, and they lead it 4-1. Back at Fenway Park with the Red Sox in the lead here, 4-1. Home half of the 6th inning coming your way. Look at our Toyota game track, and although the Rays have more hits, they've out-hit Boston 7-6. Beckett has been the big difference maker. He's allowed only 1 run, 5 strikeouts over 6. Winning baseball tonight, and Sutton, the manager, has really been big for Boston.
He has been huge. Right there, he stayed out of the double play. He had the infield going, and what that did, it got the lineup back to the top of the order. Instead of 2 outs and nobody on, you got the RBI single. Now, what does he do with Varitek? He's been struggling. He puts the hit and run on. What happens? Runners at first and third. Now a routine fly to center turns into a sacrifice fly and another run for the Boston Red Sox. Terry Francona, OB, as they say, only managing when he has to, but he has come up huge, responsible, I think, for 3 of the 4 runs tonight for Boston, and of course that's the lead that they have.
Edwin Jackson out of the ball game, and Jason Hamill is coming on, the right-hander, about to make his 11th appearance. You see, walks have been occasionally an issue for him. He's walked 18 and 37 1/3.
But see, that's what happens. You've got these young guys with great arms, and you add a Troy Percival and a Dan Wheeler with their experience, saying, you know, kid, don't waste that good stuff. Right there at 94, why'd you miss? This guy's never seen you. Varitek hasn't seen you. He doesn't know anything. Why did you miss with that? If you miss on the plate. Make him swing the bat.
Down and in on Varitek, who has singled and struck out in this one. Jason Varitek, the only man who has caught 4 no-hitters. 272, 6 homers. He guided Lester through that masterpiece back in May. The 2-0 is up and away for ball 3.
You know, OB, people may disagree with me, and everybody has the right to their own opinion, but I think Varitek is as significant as any Red Sox in the history of Boston.
In the history of the Red Sox.
I'm telling you, Ted Williams and Yaz and all of the great ones. A lot of people here in Boston realize what he's done. Obviously on the field he's done a lot. He's a captain. But what he's done in that clubhouse, they got some guys in there that could be some problems. But they're not, because they're scared to death of him.
Well, he wears that C not as a guy who walks around their clubhouse barking orders or organizing meetings. He's not a clubhouse lawyer. But when he does decide to say something, everybody in there listens. Everybody. He has tremendous respect among his teammates and among his peers. The 3-2 swung on and missed for strike 3. Well, Ken Griffey Jr. is on deck. He's going for number 600. Let's go back to the studio and John Seibel. John.
All right, guys, as you mentioned, Ken Griffey Jr. sitting on 599 career home runs. Did not get the start in the game tonight in Philadelphia, coming off the bench. There you see it. Just 5 gentlemen have reached that 600 home run mark. Interesting note, Ken Griffey Jr. usually hits his legendary home runs whenever he gets to those high water marks on the road. Here he is in Philadelphia going up against Brett Myers, who in the last inning saw his no-hitter go by the wayside. Let's bring you bonus coverage. Ken Griffey Jr., 1 homer from the 600 club.
Here comes Jr., 599 and counting. Pinch hit last night, walked on 4 pitches from Flash Gordon. Fastball up and in. Against Myers. 1 home run, and 5 for 12. They overshift on Junior. Rollins to the second base side of the bag. Flash cameras flashing here at Citizens Bank Park. Junior did not start any of the games in this series. Just part of it a tribute to the weather today. Part of it also due to the general soreness of the first 2 months of the season. Here's the 2-0. And he hasn't seen a strike in 2 at-bats yet. Last night in a 1-run ball game, Flash Gordon was booed when he went 3-0. And it's the same story here. I mean, it's a sellout. They're all on their feet. Some want to see the Phillies win, but a lot more want to see history. 3-0. Swing and a miss, and it's 3-1. For Junior last night, emotional when he came to the plate because he's known Flash Gordon since his rookie year of '87. They've become good friends over the years, and he just looked at him as he marched down to first. Here he's trying to drill Myers. That's up high, ball 4. He walks for the second consecutive night, and the Philly fans will chime in.
All right, so Tuesday night, Ken Griffey Jr. walked on 4 straight pitches, took him 5 pitches on Wednesday. So he's going to have to wait another day, gentlemen, before he gets to home run number 600. Let's send you back out to Boston. Gentlemen?
All right, John, thank you very much. There was George Grand for Cincinnati on the call there. Boy, he got one to hit at 3-0, didn't he?
Well, he did, man. I just think about the people in that ballpark tonight. That's one of those nights you'll never forget. First of all, what Myers tried to do, and then getting to see Griffey Jr. try for 600.
Never know what you're going to see at the ballpark. There goes Coco Crisp. Lashed at, fouled away by Julio Lugo. Of course, Junior with $5.99. We go back to that one. May 31st. This one gone to right field, and he did it there in Cincinnati.
Let's just don't go back and show any of the first 200.
Did you give up a couple?
He wouldn't be close right now without me.
How many, by the way? Just offhand.
3 or 4. Not only did he get me, but Pop's got me too. So
his dad could hit a bit. Lugo fouls that one back. Coco Crisp with a base hit with 1 out moments ago off the glove of a diving Hinske at first base. Red Sox have been very active on the bases tonight.
Obi, when you look at that 600 list, I mean, that's wow. That's a special list. And the one thing about Griffey is that everything he's done you can believe. There's some things we know in baseball the last 20-25 years that you know, it's going to take a while to sort out, but nothing with Griffey Jr.
1 out here, and the pitch from the right-hander is tagged into left center field. Toward the wall, on the run is Upton on the track, makes the catch. He does get there. Crisp has to hurry on back into first. He's safe. Well, long run for B.J. Upton, but he got there in time.
That's one of those shots, O.B., when it was first hit, I went, that ball is in the gap. This game is over. Look at where he's playing, to the right field side of second base. Look at where the ball ends up. Right at the corner, right out there by the 379 sign. And O.B., there was never a doubt in his mind that he was going to get there. They were saying earlier, I mean, Percival talked about Erstad, but they were also talking about Paul Blair and how it's just that long, loose stride, and you really have to go back to look at how much ground he covered.
There are a lot of center fielders, you and I have seen them, who are diving to make that catch. They are full extension diving. He's holding up. He's not even in a dead sprint by the time he gets to it.
Without that wall, he probably had 30 more feet that he could have covered before that ball hit the ground.
So over to first base, and Crisp scampering back in. Very good speed there, and blinding speed in the batter's box. And Jacoby Ellsbury, who's gone 1 for 3.
You know what I love about what Upton has done? I mean, he's not having a great night offensively, but he separated the two.
He's made all the plays and a couple of really fine catches. He almost threw out Youkilis at home. A pitch out. Crisp dives in safe. The throw trickles behind the bag. He'll stay right there. Well, this is a new breed of Boston Red Sox. This is the running Sox, the go-go Sox.
Well, and it's a new style of managing for Terry Francona. He played that National League type ball when he was with the Phillies managing there. And now, you know what? He's managed. He's done what he had to do. He's gotten a guy in the scoring position. He's got the top of the order there. Now he just sits back and watch. I mean, he had nothing to lose right there. If Chris gets thrown out, he picked the pitch out to run on. So what? You throw him out, all right, I'll lead off with my guy. I still got the lead. But Terry Francona, knowing that he's playing with house money, look at him. He's having a good night. He knows it.
So Coco Crisp at second base with 2 down will score on a single from Jacoby Ellsbury. If he does, it'll be 5-1 Red Sox here in the 6th inning at Fenway. And Hamill delivers a breaking ball downstairs. Pedroia on deck.
You know, really, you look at the other side of the field, and there's nothing that Joe Madden could have done any different. He pitched out. There's the opportunity, but this game always has been and always will be about players. Give them a chance to perform as a manager is all you can do.
Toward the hole, flagging it down, Bartlett. Chris takes a big turn, and he went too far. And now he's going to be in a rundown. Ellsbury heading to second. Navarro chasing down Coco Crisp. Tried to put the tag on him, and there's finally the sign by the home plate up. That is out number 3. Coco Crisp taking a big turn around third, and it cost him. That will do it for Boston. We've wrapped up 6. It is 4-1 Red Sox. 7th inning coming up. It is 4-1 Boston leading Tampa Bay. And when you can't be home to watch your favorite MLB team, make sure you check out MLB.tv. You can watch every out-of-market game live this season online. And for more details, simply visit www.mlb.com, MLB.tv. New pitcher on now for the Boston Red Sox, replacing Josh Beckett. That's Manny Del Carmen, hard-throwing right-hander. He is 0-1 with an ERA of .450. He's pitched 4 2/3 scoreless innings in his last 4 appearances.
It's all starting to come together for this young man. You see how he started this inning off, a lot like he has the other 27 appearances, OB, where he comes in and throws strikes. I mean, 9 walks in 27 games.
Eric Hinske went 2 for 2 against Beckett, who was out there for 6 innings, scattering 7 hits, struck out 5, didn't walk anybody. 92 pitches. He gave up 1 run, but a short outing for Beckett. I mean, that pitch count's not out of line.
92. I thought he might have had 1 more inning, but I think Terry Francona, as he should, favoring the side of caution. I mean, when you look at that disabled list for Boston, Daisuke, Big Papi, Schilling. I mean, there's been a lot of big names among the 9 guys they've had on that DL. You can't take a chance on adding Beckett.
And Beckett had that little awkward twist on the hill, and Francona did come out, quickly shooed away by the big Texan, but able to finish off the inning, and that was it for him. Hinske takes a pitch down into the dirt. You mentioned Curt Schilling, and really, no matter how much Schilling actually pitches for the Boston Red Sox this season, if it's only a start or 2, isn't that the way it ought to finish up for the Red Sox right-hander after all he has done for this franchise and pitching them to 2 world championships? Then won anything in 86 years until Curt Schilling came on board. A swing and a miss by Hinske. 1 man out. Here comes Gabe Gross, and you talk about all the winning the Red Sox have done, Aaron Andrews, with Curt Schilling on board. This guy, Joe Madden, has done a heck of a job getting his team into first place, at least for the moment.
He really has. June, July, they have a ton of road games right now. They're on a 9-game road trip. And Joe Madden mentioned he was really looking forward to this test. He said it came at a great time. It could expose weaknesses, show them what they have right with the club, what is wrong with the club, what they need to fix. You know, and also with Carlos Pena and Troy Percival on the DL, he mentioned that let's turn the negative into a positive. This gives other guys an opportunity to step up. Sut, minus my hair, what weakness do you see with this Rays team?
I want to know, first of all, Sully's producing down. How come that wasn't an on-camera there?
It wasn't?
Oh, believe me, it was. Come on now. Sut, pay attention.
You know what? She's exactly right, Obi, and so is Joe Madden. When you look at the schedule, after the 3 here at Fenway, they got 3 at Texas, and then they've got 3 with the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim. Then they go back home, and it really doesn't get any easier there. They've got Florida, who's playing well, the Cubs, who are the best team in baseball, and Houston, who has been hot. So these next 6 series, I mean, they're going to be difficult, and as Aaron said, it's going to be a test for this young team.
Well, Joe Madden saying that, you know, coming here to Boston represents the stiffest test. They took care of the Red Sox at Tropicana Field. They swept them back in April. But then right on the heels of that, they came to Fenway Park, and the Red Sox tattooed them for 3 games and swept them right back. And now here's Tampa Bay again at Fenway Park, and they lost last night. Mike Lowell and Varitek trying to give it a look, but it is off the hands of a fan, out of their reach, and a count 2-2 on Gross.
I'll tell you one way that Tampa Bay could win a game here at Fenway if they really wanted to win one. Why don't you start the American League Pitcher of the Month for May? Why don't you move Scott Kazmir up? I mean, they're not going to do that now, but wow. I mean, he has just been overpowering. He lost his first start. He's won his last 5, an ERA of 1.22. Kazmir's, I mean, he's throwing strikes now, and he is a handful.
Yeah, he's been brutally tough on Boston among everybody else, at least in terms of strikeouts. Red Sox leading it here 4-1. Top half of the 7th inning. Gross batting with the bases empty. Takes a pitch outside from Del Carmen.
Kazmir led the American League in strikeouts. An all-star for Tampa Bay a couple of years ago. Crawford, their only all-star last year. I mean, that's in the past, that's been it. They get one.
You know that'll
the
change.
Rules say.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Going to change this year. The Tampa Bay story has been one of the wonderful surprises in baseball, but you look at their ball club, very few inside the game are shocked that they're winning. Gross gets blown away. Back-to-back strikeouts here from Manny Del Carmen. Time for a Sports Center. Right now, let's go back to John in the studio.
All right, thanks, guys. It's a very short list of guys with just 200 wins and 150 saves. That list has one name on it, John Smoltz. The 41-year-old season is over. He will have season-ending surgery, but he says he wants to come back and play in 09 when he's 42. And Ozzie Guillen kept the company's bleeper busy with his tirade over a lack of offense. He has 2 hits in this game, both of them home runs. That one went 87 miles by Jim Thome, guys.
Yeah, he's hit a few just like that, but Ozzie Guillen and Kenny Williams, the GM, have smoothed things over. It looked like for about 24 hours, so that might be it for Ozzie. And maybe they were not going to continue to employ him as the manager of the Chicago White Sox. And Kenny Williams, the GM, said, I'm not really fond of my manager throwing me under the bus like that, in so many words.
I love Ozzie, man.
Well, they've kissed and made up. So
he was so much fun as a player, and you know what? He's just so passionate about everything that he does, and particularly about winning. And last year was a long year. Enough of that. He starts seeing things kind of get away. He's a lot smarter than what you might think with throwing your GM under the bus and what have you. He took a lot of that pressure. I mean, it's Tampa Bay's fault. I mean, they're the one that sent them into that tailspin.
That's right.
Absolutely. And when you lose with walk-off homers, that adds to the frustration.
Bartlett batting here, 1-2 the count. He is 0 for 2 on the night. Checked his swing and fouled it away. I think Ozzie came as close as he has ever come to being relieved of his duties over the last couple of days, but the ownership loves him.
Yeah.
Reinsdorf adores him, and it seems like he has worked out his issues with Kenny Williams, but basically Ozzie said something's got to happen. Either I'm going to just totally jumble this lineup, or I need some new players. The GM's got to get me some new players. Swung on and missed, and how about Del Carmen coming out of the bullpen, and he strikes out Hinske, Gross, and Bartlett in succession. 4-1 Boston. That's the site right there for the NBA Finals beginning tomorrow. The TD Bank North Garden. The Celtics and the Lakers for the 11th time. Boston winning the first 8. LA the last 2. ABC your destination for the NBA Finals Coverage begins at 8:30 Eastern, and this city is abuzz with Celtics talk again. Celtics and Lakers has that magical ring, that mythical ring to it, doesn't it?
It really does, and I kind of got goosebumps right now with all of the things I've been through the last couple of months. Pretty good day to be me tomorrow, partner.
Are you going? Are you going to the Celtics game?
Well, of course, after the graduation, yeah.
Your daughter,
Yeah.
Shelby, your lovely daughter, Shelby, is graduating from Harvard Medical tomorrow. And then you're going to the Celtics game.
How about that?
The Celtics and the Lakers. Pedroia hits a high fly down the right field line. Gross moving over to the stands, but it's into the seats. Hey, that's a pretty good day.
The total shock to me. Larry Lucchino, Mike D, Sam Kennedy, just kind of a nice little graduation present to get an opportunity to go watch those three guys.
Well, those guys are the big three of the Red Sox. These are the big three of the Celtics. Pierce, Garnett, and Allen. They have never appeared in an NBA final. Between the three of them, not one. That'll be remedied in front of your eyes tomorrow and on ABC for the rest of us. The rest of us mere mortals. Longoria picks it off and throws on to get Pedroia. And Larry Lucchino, in fact, the president of the Boston Red Sox, who has been so responsible for the great changes to this ballpark and the monster seats and that Budweiser Pavilion down there and all the great things that have happened here. He is also a cancer survivor, and I know he came in and you guys were exchanging some notes. You've known Larry for a long time. He's one of the great men in baseball.
One of the biggest phone calls that I got during it all was I was told that the treatment, I could take a month off and then do one at a time, and Larry said no way. He said put the gloves on and get in the ring. And you know, we did them both at the same time.
John Henry and Tom Werner there, two of the owners of the Red Sox.
Unbelievable what they've done and how they've given the nation an opportunity to compete with the empire, as they call it.
Well, it is an extraordinary thing to see, and I'm not sure that fans across the country who are not Red Sox fans can truly come to grips with it. But the Red Sox played in San Diego last year, 3,000 miles away. The Red Sox nation actually took over the city of San Diego. A base hit for J.D. Drew. Swinging a very good bat these days. He is now 2 for 3.
Well, Obi, how about what happened in Japan when the Red Sox went there to start this season? Now the impact they have globally, and then of course when they went to Los Angeles and in the old Coliseum, over 100,000 tickets sold out to come watch this team play. They were the most popular team in the American League to watch, not only at home with them being sold out, but on the road last year. It hadn't been that way for a long time.
The Red Sox are in fact the #1 road draw in the majors a season ago. The Yankees don't really like hearing that. Hank Steinbrenner has been very clear. He really expects the Yankees to retake that mantle one day. We'll see as Manny Ramirez checks his swing and a pitch into the dirt. Red Sox are the defending world champions. The Yankees are in the basement of the American League East. We talk about a change in circumstances. Tampa Bay at the moment is in first place.
Well, I think a lot of it has to do, Obi, with the changes they've made here. And how they're able to come up with more and more revenue every year to pay a guy like Manny Ramirez $20 million a year. Those green monster seats, those weren't there before Larry and Mike and the guys got here. John Henry.
Manny tonight with a base hit that scored a run in the third inning. Every year the Red Sox seem to do something new in left field, down a left field corner.
And those seats out there, I've been in those seats out there right above the one. It's almost like you're playing right field. It's as exciting as any seat, I think, as there is in baseball. I've not been on the monster yet. I'm sure those are, I got to know Dave O'Brien to sit yeah, in that section.
Right. Yeah. You're going to the NBA Finals tomorrow. And they have a new Coca-Cola Pavilion in left field as well. That's brand new this year, and it's something new every year.
Well, what's going on in center field out there? They talk about the bleacher bar, Wrigley Field.
Swung on and fouled away. And dead away center field, which used to be they have That's a bar out there. Now Lansdowne Street is on the other side of that, so you can enter from there, and you can actually see the entire field. Obviously, they've got a scrim there that comes over the area you're looking at, so it doesn't distract from the players and the batter's eye and all of that. But fans can actually see from the center fielder's angle looking in. That's brand new this year.
So much more than just a ball game. That's exciting. That's Wrigley too.
J.D. Drew at first base with 1 out. Boston ahead 4-1 in the 7th. And the breaking ball is knocked down by Navarro. 2-2. Tampa Bay has lost 42 of their last 51 here at Fenway Park, so it's been tough sledding for the Rays here in Boston.
Obie, I think what makes it so tough for all of baseball here in Boston is what Jonathan Papelbon has done to the game, particularly here and for the Red Sox.
Shortened it up, hasn't it?
I mean, if you're Tampa Bay right now, you're looking at, you got 3 outs to tie the game or get the lead.
Here goes Drew. The pitch outside. Navarro slings it down, but a bad throw. J.D. Drew into second base. The Red Sox are the #2 base stealing team in the American League. Tampa Bay is #1. But decades and decades passed without the Red Sox stealing any bases. And under Terry Francona and his running Go-Go Sox, they are stealing a ton.
I remember for a long time there was only 1 stolen base from the Red Sox that anybody remembered or talked about.
There's Dave Roberts against the Yankees and Mariano Rivera. And you're right about Papelbon. He's done what Rivera did for the Yankees and continues to do. He makes it a short game up and in on Manny Ramirez as he takes a walk. Runners on at first and second here. And Papelbon was absolutely overpowering here last night in the Boston win, throwing 99. Then he'd come back at 99, and then he'd come back at 99. Throwing the hardest that he has ever thrown with the Red Sox. Here's Mike Lowell now. He's gone 0 for 3. Although twice he has hit the ball right on the button and been denied because of outstanding defensive plays by the Rays, who are among the best in baseball defensively. This one's going to drop down for a base hit. J.D. Drew will hold at third base. Coco Crisp earlier had run through a stop sign. And the Red Sox are building what could be the put-away inning there. The bases loaded now for Kevin Youkilis.
I don't think J.D. got a real good read on this ball. From up here, we could tell that clearly that was going to be a base hit. And with his speed, you know that Mike Lowell would like to have seen him score there.
I think you're right. DeMarlo Hale, the third base coach, was kind of signaling that ball was slicing a little bit, but Drew didn't get a real good look at it.
Well, watch this. I mean, there's absolutely no chance for Gross to make that play, but J.D.'s still looking back as if he had some doubt. Now with 1 out, that ground ball, and the defense for Tampa Bay can get out of this.
Youkilis lays off, and it's down and away for ball 1. Ball filled up for the Red Sox. J.D. Drew, the runner, at third. Manny Ramirez at second. And Mike Lowell had just ripped that single on at first. The 6'6" Hamill comes to the plate. That's a strike. Even up 1-1 on Youkilis. With a victory tonight, the Red Sox retake first place in the East. They're a half game behind Tampa Bay. Hamill trying to keep them in the game. Ground ball, base hit. Drew is in to score. Ramirez moves up to third. It is 5-1 Red Sox. Youkilis with his second hit of the game. He picks up his 36th RBI. And the bases are reloaded for Boston.
Keep the line moving. A lot of times that's what's said in the dugout when you've got a rally going. And a lot of times over the last couple of years, that's what Kevin Youkilis has been able to do. He can hit second, he can hit third as he did last night. You look at him tonight, he's down there in that 6th spot. Just offensively, there's nowhere you can't put him.
They've actually had him lead off in the past. Going into this season, he said, I'll hit anywhere Terry Francona wants me to hit I just don't want to lead off ever again. And they found the right guy in Jacoby Ellsbury to do that job, it would appear. So the Red Sox are now out hit Tampa Bay 11-7. It's been more of a slow process of picking away and picking up runs for the Red Sox, but they're filled up again. Ramirez and Lowell and Youkilis. And the batter is Jason Varitek, who is 1 for 3. A single and a couple of strikeouts for the catcher. He'll bat left-handed again. 2 career grand slams. He cuts and misses for strike 1.
I think he's actually a better hitter from the right side. I think at times Varitek will get a little loopy with that swing from the left side, and of course with mostly right-handed pitching in baseball, you're going to be on that side.
The numbers this year in particular really bear that out. He's hitting .393 from the other side of the plate. It's a fly ball into right center field. Upton cruising underneath it. Manny Ramirez back to third. Here he comes. Upton firing to the plate. Another good throw. The tag. He's out at home. Upton almost got Youkilis earlier and does get Manny Ramirez. That turns into a double play to end the inning.
That's his 7th outfield assist, all coming from center field. That is a lot for a year, and we're just barely into June.
Upton with a cannon in center field cuts down Manny Ramirez.
ESPN Wednesday Night Baseball is presented by Goodyear, innovative technology to help you get there. And in part by One A Day Men's, the official multivitamin of MLB, specially formulated to support prostate health. And Ford, drive one.
Well, 2 former Japanese stars to duel here at Fenway Park. On to the 8th inning, 5-1. The Red Sox have the lead over Tampa Bay. Rick Sutcliffe, Dave O'Brien, Aaron Andrews alongside. On a night that has gotten progressively nicer after lots of rain in New England during the day. Iwamura has gone 1 for 3 with a base hit. And facing Hideki Okajima, the man coming out of the bullpen, the left-hander for the Red Sox, who is 1-1 with a save and an ERA of .210. Red Sox like to start him clean in an inning with nobody on base, because it's been a real issue for the lefty this year, permitting inherited runners to score. He has allowed 9 of his last 10, 11 of his last 14 inherited runners to come around and score.
Yeah, but when you look at those numbers, those are the only bad numbers on his resume again this year. This guy was a big surprise for the Red Sox last year.
He was an all-star. As that one's lifted down the left field line, slicing foul. Carl Crawford on deck, and then B.J. Upton as the Rays try and get a little bit closer in this one. They are down by 4.
You know, speaking of all-stars, Tampa Bay last year, that man was their lone representative. Hit a home run in his first at bat for Chad Cordero, helping them to that win.
Iwamura fouls that one back. He was such a big Carl Crawford fan that he got an autographed jersey of Carl Crawford and hung it in his living room in Japan.
Aki did. Yeah. Really?
Big fan of Carl Crawford.
Oh, when the team went over there and played after the season. Yeah.
Yes. They wound up becoming teammates. The 2-2 is inside. Upton will also hit in this inning, and what a magnificent throw that was. We've seen 2 of them tonight by Upton. One that almost nailed a Red Sox runner at the plate, and the other that did. Although Manny Ramirez is not running 100%, he does have sore hamstrings right now, and that's the biggest reason that he is the designated hitter with Ortiz on the DL. A diving effort by Pedroia, can't come up with it. It'll be a base hit for Akinora Iwamura. But back to that throw moments ago by B.J. Upton as part of a double play.
Unbelievable how deep he was. But look at him get set, gets his body going, and then all of a sudden he comes up and just effortlessly. I mean, it didn't look like he really put a lot on that, but look at where it ended up. A lot like when he starts running. It doesn't seem like it's going to get there, but then it's there easily. Manny trying to avoid the tag, but nothing he could do.
Upton coming out. He'll bat after Crawford, who has gone 1 for 3. Crawford has a leg issue of his own. It's his right leg. which has troubled him, and that's what they did the MRI on. 275 with 4 home runs, but it has really taken a huge chunk of his speed away, at least temporarily. Tampa Bay among the most athletic teams in the game. You'd have to look at that Angels team of Mike Scioscia's, and this Tampa Bay club is maybe the 2 most athletic clubs in terms of that ability to go home to third and make the great running catch.
And along with that, the 2 best defensive teams in the American League. A lot of it because of that range and speed and athleticism.
Big swing and a miss. You would expect that at some point those beat LA chants to be coming up from the crowd here at Fenway. They started doing it last night. There's a very interested observer that is one of the all-time greats, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. He has a very firm rooting interest in the game that you'll see tomorrow night.
He's one of the few guys big enough to get away with wearing an LA hat in this town.
That's right. Just outside, a good eye by Crawford. 2 balls, 2 strikes. There was some talk that maybe Bill Russell would be here tonight along with Kareem Abdul-Jabbar to watch the ball game together and talk about NBA championships, because they've got an awful lot of knowledge about that topic. Celtics and Lakers on ABC tomorrow. Big swing and a miss by Crawford, and down he goes. B.J. Upton coming up. Game 1 on the way, and so much of the NBA history has been these 2 storied franchises with 30 NBA titles between the 2. Incredible.
I mean, I'm not an expert on anything, let alone the NBA, but didn't you kind of see this coming? I mean, these 2 guys, 2 teams clashing.
Well, given the year Kobe had, sure, the MVP and the big 3 for the Celtics in the regular season they had. Of course, the Celtics had to prove that they could win a playoff game on the road, and they did that.
Well, wait a minute now. The basketball expert, one of them, Charles Barkley, says they're not the big 3. They haven't done anything yet.
As this one is going to miss down low for a ball on Upton.
They're listening to you, partner. Here it comes. With a 5-1 lead. Okajima on the mound and Papelbon in the bullpen. They're comfortable with that. Now they're starting to think about tomorrow night.
Cliff Floyd on deck, 1 out, a runner on at first. Upton has had an outstanding night defensively. At the bat, he's gone 0 for 3 with 2 strikeouts. He was so frustrated after grounding out to third in the 6th inning that he really fired his helmet. And he got back to that dugout. They're without Carlos Pena, who has not had anything near the offensive year he had last year, at least not yet, but they're still going to miss that power. That is going to be in there, and he'll take another seat. Okajima strikes him out, and again, Upton is not happy with Emmel, who's going to warn him now. This is going to be close, and he's gone. Emmel has thrown out B.J. Upton. Madden has to come out and push away his gifted center fielder, who strikes out for the 3rd time tonight. Well, this goes all the way back to the 1st inning when Upton was not pleased at all with Paul Emmel. He was questioning him almost the moment he got in the batter's box.
Well, you know what, OB? BJ went back there and looked at our replay where K-Zone clearly proved that the ball was outside, and yet they took the bat out of his hand, and there was a man on base early in the game against Beckett. You know, they were trying to put something on the board. Let's go back right now. Take a look at this. There's that curveball outside, not by much, but even Varitek brings it back, but that took the bat out of his hand.
This is moments ago, and that one missed too by a hair, but it did miss.
I talked about what a great guy he is, but you know what? Enough is enough. He got what he had to say. Now, I will tell you one thing. This is one of the QuesTec parks right here. So when Mr. Emmel gets done with the night and he goes back and looks at the tape, he's going to find out that he was wrong.
Okajima gets the call for out number 2. Johnny Gomes will step in, pinch hitting for Cliff Floyd. So they get a right-handed stick up there. Floyd wound up going 1 for 3. Gomes with excellent power. He takes a strike. So man not only getting a right-hand batter up there, but also someone who could very quickly make this a 5-3 game if he gets his pitch to drive. 5-1 Boston.
Madden's just so good with his bench, just keeping everybody ready to go.
Foul ball into the Tampa Bay dugout and then out again. Now for the Red Sox, the win belongs to Josh Beckett if they hang on to the lead. He went 6, giving up 7 hits, striking out 5. He walked nobody, giving up 1 run. Fans supporting Okajima here as he looks for a strikeout of Gomes. Into the dirt, stopped by Varitek. Uemura on at first base. Fenway Park packed to the gills, as it is year after year. The toughest ticket in New England. The 1-2 missed up top. 2 balls, 2 strikes. Okajima with 20 pitches, 12 for strikes since coming out of the Red Sox bullpen. Tampa Bay with a half-game lead as of this moment in the American League East. Many around baseball may be shocked by that. They may give that up tonight. Back to Boston. Here's the 2-2. Outside and a full count. 3-2 on Gomes.
Tell you what, though, one thing about Tampa, 12 games over 500. Tampa Bay coming into play tonight. Last year at this time on this date, OB, they were 12.5 games out in 4th place. Regardless of what happens tonight and throughout this series, this team's still got a lot to be proud of and a lot of momentum going here in 08.
3-2 runner goes, swung on and scooped up by Mike Lowell. A fine play by the Gold Glover across to Youkilis in time. Red Sox pitching really doing the work tonight. They haven't walked anybody and they've struck out 10. Time to look at our pitching summary presented by Scott's. Beckett is in line for the win. He was very tough. Jackson, his opponent tonight, went the first 5 innings. Edwin Jackson had good stuff early. Wound up walking 3, striking out 4. Both of them hitting the mid to upper 90s with their fastballs.
I thought Jackson pitched very well. He just ran into problems in that 3rd inning.
That bunt kept foul by Longoria as he charged and scooped it in foul territory. Coco Crisp trying to bunt his way on. Justin Ruggiano just called up from the minor leagues to replace Carlos Pena for the next couple of weeks. Pena on the DL with that fractured index finger. So he takes over for Upton, who got run by the home plate ump, Paul Emmel. Coco Crisp coming alive the last couple of nights. Just in time for the Red Sox, with Ortiz now on the disabled list. He has singled twice tonight. Red Sox with 11 hits, Tampa Bay with 8.
The fans here are confused. Don't they mean beat Tampa Bay?
Maybe they feel like they've already done that, but you may do that at your own peril the way they've been coming back on people and winning games dramatically. Lugo on deck and then Jacoby Ellsbury. The 6'6" righty delivers in tight for a ball. And the count moves to 3-1. Now the Yankees have won tonight, knocking off Toronto 5-1. Jabba Chamberlain made that start last night. I know everybody in New York has been talking about that, and certainly a dubious first inning with all that went wrong for Jabba. The pitch is outside for ball 4, but Sut, I know you're one. He wasn't going to bury the young guy, and you thought there were reasons to think that this might go okay.
I think he's going to be fine. I actually thought that start that he had last night should have happened back in mid-March. There was no question their rotation was going to be a question mark without him there. He's better suited. He can pitch anywhere. He could close if you have to. But that rotation wasn't strong enough for them to compete in this tough American League East. But when they told manager Joe Girardi in his first year that you've only got him for 140 innings, you know, well, what are you going to do? Shut him down in July? That made no sense whatsoever.
Bluff bunt, the pitch in for a strike on Lugo.
And I'll be honest with you, if Joe Girardi would have had, Joe Torre wouldn't have tolerated it either. But if Joe Girardi would have been in the second or third year, he would have had something to say about 140 innings. You know, I'm trying to win a championship here. 140 innings. I was a 22-year-old kid with the Dodgers, a #1 pick, all that junk. I didn't get into the rotation until mid-May in '79. I ended up with 242, Mike Tirico said. Come on.
A very different era, and I know you understand that as well, but
yeah,
you're right. I mean, how about taking the handcuffs off?
These guys are bigger today, they're stronger, and they throw harder. That's what's different. They can still throw as many innings. Let's go. I get it with 120 to 130 pitches. All right, shut it down there. But not 140 innings.
Crisp aboard getting his lead. Lugo looking for his first hit as Crisp gets back in. Red Sox big inning tonight was the third when they scored 3 times off Edwin Jackson. Terry Francona, if the Red Sox wind up winning this ball game, will have played a very big role with hitting and running and sending his base stealers down to second. Diving in again, Coco Crisp.
It's fun to watch this Red Sox team right now. They're different. We've been watching them in the past. These fans, they sell this ballpark out every night. It's kind of a station-to-station team. A few years ago, Johnny Damon might steal a base. You put in Dave Roberts, yeah, he's going to run, but that's it.
Crisp taking off, another pitch out, the throw down, the tag is out. Iwamura got tagged himself, but he held on to it. Hard slide there by Coco Crisp. Looked very clean, and Iwamura got shaken up. He's going to hang in there. Quickly, let's go back to the studio. John?
Guys, you hang around this game long enough, you're going to see some weird things. Twins down 5-2, bottom of the 5th. Joe Mauer sacrifice fly to center. Adam Jones going to corral that, but slips on the warning track. See, Nick Punto is going to score easily from third, but Carlos Gomez comes around from second. The 60-yard dash, and he's safe. Twins with 2 more in the bottom of the 6th take a 6-5 lead, guys.
Wow, what if that turns out to be the difference in the game? That one slip there. John Seibel, thank you very much. 3-1 to count on Lugo. Coco Crisp just caught stealing a couple of moments ago here at Fenway. More speed in the on-deck area in Ellsbury, and that one is fouled back.
Just makes me think of last year. Wasn't it Ellsbury that scored from second on a wild pitch?
That's correct. Right here at Fenway. This place went absolutely crazy. I guess you could look back to that moment and say it launched a new era for this Red Sox team.
Well, and then he put the icing on the cake with some of those defensive plays he made in the postseason, and then he eventually got into the starting lineup.
3-2, big swing and a miss, and Lugo goes down. He strikes out for out number 2. That's why these series between Tampa Bay and Boston should be very fun to watch. They're 2 teams that will go after each other on the base paths. Well, here comes Madden. He's going to make a pitching change. That will do it for Hamill. And with Ellsbury, the left-hand hitter, coming up, he will dip into the bullpen again. We'll take the break with him as well. Your score 5-1 Boston in the 8th inning at Fenway. Well, Joe Madden is hopping mad at Coco Crisp. Originally, I thought that was a clean slide, but when we took a look at the replay, Crisp came in very, very late.
Joe Madden has every reason to be mad, and Coco Crisp, if you're in the lineup tomorrow night, you can count on one right in the middle of that 10 in the middle of your back. There's no reason for that in a 5-1 ball game to slide that late into a middle infielder. That's horrible.
Took Iwamura right out. He was shaken up. And then during the pitching change, this is Madden and Coco Crisp as they fire back and forth to each other. The umpires actually interceded. They went to the Red Sox dugout.
What?
And
how are you going to explain that? Coco, you go back and watch it. You need to go over there and apologize. Because you took a chance on hurting someone and taking out their career. For a guy whose legs are important to him, that's what got him to the big leagues. I mean, he should be the first guy to understand that. That's not good baseball, and that's not what you want to see anywhere, at any level. Don't be arguing about it. Apologize. You're wrong. Slide. That's too late. You're trying to hurt it. If you're breaking up a double play, yeah, that's a good play. He's trying to steal a base, and in reality, all he was trying to do was hurt somebody.
Remember in spring training when they were playing the Yankees, Duncan went in hard as well, and Madden took umbrage at that. He said, I'm going to remember that. And so I guess you could say it's game on here between the Red Sox and the Rays. Another look. There's no denying that's late.
Terrible. You're trying to break his ankle. Whatever comes your way, you deserve it.
First look, I thought he had kind of skipped on some of this wet dirt here, but that was not the case. And the Rays have every right to be upset. Ellsbury here with 2 out. The base is empty, and that one misses.
Well, they play each other 19 times this season. They'll get him.
Trevor Miller coming out of the bullpen, the left-hander. Appearance number 27 out of what has been a very, very good pen, a 3.63 ERA. Ellsbury 1 for 4 with a single. That was in the 3rd inning. 2 men out and some fireworks late in this contest with the Red Sox in front 5-1. Pedroia on deck. And the rookie takes a strike to the outside corner, 3-2.
You know, Obie, that surprises me with Coco too. That's a guy that to me, I always felt like he cared about the game. I'm surprised. I did not expect that out of him.
Payoff pitch flying into right field. Gross is there. Makes the catch. Side retired. Nobody left as it turns out. Madden still steaming. Red Sox in front 5-1 through 8. That was Forever, the brand new single off the album entitled Exclusive Forever Edition by Chris Brown. Coco Crisp goes back out there to play center field. What will tomorrow bring for the Red Sox center fielder and for Joe Madden, the skipper of the Tampa Bay Rays, who was hollering at Crisp after that very late slide that took out Iwamura, the Rays second baseman. Now here comes the right-hander Craig Hanser, who's really starting to pull things together. It'll be his 13th appearance, of 5.27 ERA. He throws it into the mid to upper 90s with a real biting slider.
Did an outstanding job last night, coming in a tough spot in the 8th inning. A couple of guys inherited as far as runners were concerned. None of them scored.
Facing Longoria, who's had a good night at the plate, a double and a single. 244 with 7 homers.
Good night in the
third
field.
Yeah, it really has. He's very quick over there in that position, that reactionary position of third base. And Mike Lowell, his counterpart, one of the very best in the league himself.
Well, as you mentioned, Lowell has a Gold Glove. I think Longoria at one point will get one too.
2-1 fastball to the outside corner. Now the Rays on the railing. If they weren't into this series before, I think they are now. Although I think they, in coming to Boston in first place, were fully vested to begin with. That is down low for a ball, now 3-2. Now that play at second base has added an extra spark to this season series and what is now becoming a rivalry, not just because of this episode, but if you go back a couple of years, Pedro Martinez had some celebrated run-ins with the old Tampa Bay Devil Rays back when they were a losing club. That's ball 4. Bench clearing brawls and that sort of thing.
Looking at Pedroia there, and even Lugo over at short. They may wear it tomorrow. It's one of those things these days, OB, it's a little different than in the past. Used to be umpires had to warn you. You had a free shot to get away with it. Now, if they go out there tomorrow, Coco's first at bat, Shields, who will be on the mound for them, drills him, he's not only going to get kicked out, you know, and it could be early in the game. He's going to get suspended, and then you don't win.
Navarro with a soft one towards short. Lugo has to go to first base with the runner on the move, and he gets it there in time. Longoria down to second base with one away in the ninth.
But at some point, Coco Crisp is going to wear it, because when Aki Iwamura came off and he went into the dugout, Joe Maddon had something to say to him, and I'll bet it was along the line of, we'll take care of that. Because there was a nod, and it was like they both, okay, we're just right here. Okay, that's yeah, we got it. We got it. And that you just love that as a player. Because now you can forget about it and just do your job. The man told you he'll take care of it.
Here's Hinske. He has doubled, singled, and struck out tonight. He takes a fastball in there for strike one. Boston on top 5-1. Tampa Bay only scoring in the fourth inning. That was off of Josh Beckett, who was in line for the victory. Red Sox going tonight, as they will for about the next month, without the services of David Ortiz. Ground ball to the right side. Pedroia fields this. 2 down. Longoria into third base. And Gabe Gross, all that separates the Red Sox from a victory. Of course, Tampa Bay with a key loss of their own in Carlos Pena, who really became a star last year for Madden. And for Tampa Bay with 46 homers, out with a fractured left index finger, placed on the DL today. He was hit by a pitch last night.
Well, this young Tampa Bay team stumbled when they came to Fenway earlier this year. They lost 3 straight here, but they went to Toronto and won 2 out of 3 and kind of just stopped the tide. If they lose tomorrow and get swept again.
Goes swings, lifts a high fly into left. Ellsbury underneath it. And the Boston Red Sox are back in first place in the American League East. Although tomorrow night, Game 3 of the series could get really, really interesting.
It really could, and the reason this game wasn't more interesting, OB, was because Josh Beckett was so good. 6 solid innings. You got an opportunity to put your club into first place. I think if I was any team in baseball, I'd take my chances with Josh Beckett on the mound.
He gets the win. Beckett improving to 6-4. Edwin Jackson winds up the loser. He drops to 3-5. 5 runs on 11 hits for the Red Sox. For Tampa Bay, 1 run on 8 hits, and Boston has taken the first 2 in this 3-game series.
But finally, some good news for Tampa Bay. Tomorrow, they get the #1 pick in the country. I'm going to go out on a limb. I'm going to say it's the catcher from Florida State. Buster Posey will be the #1. We'll see tomorrow.
Well, they have built their way into a successful franchise here, seemingly overnight, with a lot of first-round draft picks. They continue to play well, but the Red Sox are back in first, now a half a game over Tampa Bay in the AL East. Again, your final, the Red Sox 5 and Tampa Bay 1. Next on ESPN, it's Baseball Tonight. And for more on this game, we invite you to tune in to Postgame Extra on ESPN News with the fireworks there with Iwamura and Coco Crisp, and Joe Maddon will have a lot more to say on this. This has been a presentation of ESPN, the worldwide leader in sports. It was a misty, rainy night here in Boston. The Red Sox wind up with the victory and have taken games 1 and 2 against the Rays. Along with Rick Sutcliffe, Aaron Andrews, and our entire crew, I'm Dave O'Brien. Thank you so much for joining us tonight at historic Fenway Park. We say goodnight from Boston, and thanks so much for watching. Now it's time for Baseball Tonight. Good night, everybody.